60 on this Thursday afternoon. John Schaefer, Sammy Long. Now, Sammy's going to be with us for the next hour, as he's been traditionally over the last few weeks, ever since Jim bailed on us. Where is Jim, by the way? Here, let me give you my Jim update real quick, okay? And listen, the guy that called in yesterday that didn't like us talking about the dentist for 14 minutes, you're going to have to bear with me, okay? You're going to have to bear with me.
I don't think he's listening
I don't know if he is. Listen, there's other places you can listen if you want. But so I get a text. This is so Jim. I get a text from Jim. I actually can't even fully. Well, anyway, he's consuming a lot of Padres content. I'm like, dude, like, go do your job or something. Like, go play in the snow or like get a coat, put gloves on. I don't know. Do something outside. But he's just, he can't get away from it. That's my point. Which I get. Like, if it's 20 degrees in Pennsylvania, I don't even know what the temperature is. I haven't even checked.
I see his Twitter's great. He's like he's always in a rare form. Jim Russell's Twitter game is second to none.
All of a sudden it's like hot. It's 34 right now in Philadelphia. Like it was in the 20s, in the 10s, and the zeros. Okay, a couple of things we want to
high at 36 today. It's heat wave.
Beautiful. Oh, now AJ Preller spoke about his future. Right now, this is a pretty lengthy back and forth. This was about 3 minutes. I probably could have shortened it down. We'll hear it in a second. But correct me if I'm wrong, and we can react to it, Sammy, after we hear it for the listeners that haven't heard it as of yet. Every single time I hear from AJ Preller, it goes in the wrong direction of where it was. Yes. It's like, what's that movie, guys, where like the person like ages the wrong way? Is it
Benjamin Button?
That's what this is. October 2nd, the day they lost to the Cubs, like, deal's done. Formality. It's done. And then like November 1st, semantics. And then like January 1st, it's like, well.
AJ Preller needs to be studied on. He honestly should be like a PR spokesperson because he has a beautiful way of saying a lot without saying anything.
Yes.
Just kind of talking around the issue. It was, I don't know if we're going to play the sound, but
okay. So, this is a back and forth. Like the media, as we knew would happen, I think he spoke for 9 minutes. Over 3 of the 9 minutes centered around his contract with multiple questions about it. I think maybe 4, if not 5 questions about his status moving forward. This was from today in Peoria with the media and AJ Preller.
How come you don't have a contract extension?
I mean, again, like, continue to talk to John and, I think again, it's something that like anything, it's like when the time's right, the moment's right. Hoping to line up on something, hoping to have something here that that can focus me back on the field and go from there. But we'll see where it goes in the next couple of days.
How important is it to you? Being that your primary thing is building a team and all that. How important is it to you that this gets done, gets out of the way?
I mean, again, to me, like either way, I mean, like ultimately, I'm under contract, so it's I think it's all about putting a team on the field that's going to win, and there's still a lot of work to do in terms of like continuing to round out the roster. So that continues to be the focus. Like I've said before, I love being here, love San Diego, feel good about the work we've done as a group. Again, it's something that we still have some unfinished business. So that's really the motivation for for city of San Diego to go out and win and be a part of it, and hopefully we can do that.
With the contract, how important or is it important that it be settled by opening day? So it's not, you're not necessarily going into the season with it being your last one under contract. Does that matter?
Yeah, again, I'm not setting any kind of deadline or anything like that. I mean, I think to me it's like always open just to having conversation and trying to see if we can work something out. But I think ultimately, like my focus it's on the team and the field and spring training getting started. That won't change, and I don't see us setting any kind of deadline or anything like that.
You said at FanFest you were expecting something to get done. There's since been some pretty public developments with ownership, the sale process, or at least the developments going public. Would you say you're still expecting something to get done?
Yeah, no, I don't think anything's changed from that standpoint. I think the same sentiments that myself and I know the conversations I have with John. I think I think the same sentiments we've had really throughout the whole off season. I think that hasn't changed at all. Despite not having a deal, I feel like the wanting to be here. I think the intent from the organization for me to be here. I feel like that's all the same, and I think hopefully we can line up on something.
Is there any apprehension on your part, considering you don't know who the next owner is going to be? is there any merit in waiting to find out who the next guy or woman may be?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think again, like I think that's definitely been an element that's a little bit different. Obviously, when you have your direct boss is somebody that is going to be here, so that's probably something for myself that's at least it's kind of just a different element that's been added to the whole conversation. I don't think that really is going to impact anything though. I think from the beginning, in terms of like getting a deal done, I think like it's been again it's been pretty consistent, the conversation, and ultimately I think we're either going to do it or not. I don't think it's going to be, hey, we may have a new owner here at some point in time, and in the next few weeks, months, et cetera. So that's what's holding this up. Like that, I don't feel that at all, honestly.
We're either the interesting thing in there. Listen, I will give AJ Preller the benefit of the doubt. By and large, in that 3-minute soundbite you just heard, by and large, it sounded like he was willing to work towards a deal or was working towards a deal. But maybe there was a moment of honesty in there as well. Not to say he was being dishonest in the other part of it, because I don't think he is. But he did put in there like comma splice, like inside English grammar. It's like, whether we do it or not, you're leaving open the possibility that the deal doesn't get done. He said it. It's not us saying it. He said whether it gets done or not. Anytime you say that, if you say to your dad, whether I go to dinner or not tonight isn't going to change whether I'm going to be at breakfast tomorrow, that's saying I might not be at dinner tonight. So he's left open the possibility that this doesn't get done, even though we thought over the course of the offseason it was inevitable.
Well, and my biggest question after that press conference was, Marty asked him, hey, what is ownership affecting your deal getting done? And he said no.
Yep.
So where was like the next logical question is, what's holding the deal up? Like, just like legitimately, what is stopping that? Because right to your point, it could get done, whether or not it gets done. He's leaving open the door to leave, which is, we keep talking about it. It just is kind of astounding that the Padres are letting a guy who I like AJ Preller, but letting a guy make decisions on the ball club. He basically picked a manager by saying inviting Craig Stammen into the interview process and saying he thought he would be a good guy for the job, let him trade away some big time prospects and DeVries last year at the deadline. And that's not to rip AJ Preller, but they're letting him operate as a GM and he's not under contract. So I guess AJ Preller, it seems like it would be more on his end, of the sense that he knows that the Padres are going through an ownership change. There's a potential lockout next year. They didn't want to go for a high ticket manager with Craig Stammen. Maybe they don't want to go for a high ticket GM. So he kind of has all the cards, but it's just an odd scenario how they basically keep saying, yeah, well, if it gets done, I mean, it can get done, but yet it's not done. So there's smoke where there's fire.
No, I agree with everything you're saying. And like AJ's gone down this path a lot, which is like, I want to bring a championship to the city of San Diego. I believe him wholeheartedly. He says he loves living in San Diego. I believe him wholeheartedly. With all that being said, we've seen enough of how life works that if you feel like you're not being appreciated enough through your employer, you're willing to cast that all to the side. Does he want to bring a championship here? Yes. But if he doesn't get what he deems a fair deal, then guess where he's going to want to bring a championship? San Francisco or Seattle or New York. Or like, that's how life works. And San Diego's an amazing place. Nobody's disagreeing with it. Nobody would ever disagree with that. But guess what? He wouldn't be the first person to leave San Diego for an opportunity. Now, he may regret it somewhere along the way. But if it was solely about where you live, then nobody would ever enter the transfer portal in Southern California.
Right.
And there's so many factors at play. All things being equal, would he want to be in San Diego? Of course he would. Of course he would. Nobody's doubting that. But play dumb games, win dumb prizes. If you open up the possibility of him not being here because you won't give him the extra year, because you won't give him the extra money, because you won't allow him to report to who he wants to report to, and I'm making all this up, and I get it. There's some open-ended questions. Who is owning this team moving forward? That's hard for John Seiler to answer, or AJ Preller. So maybe that's part of the holdup. But, you get into the season and he's unsigned, and his deal ends in October, and I don't have a lot of faith the deal gets done, truthfully, if we get into the season.
I mean, it's kind of astounding that you would think that John Seiler and ownership would want fewer questions, because there's obviously, with the sale of the team, going to be massive questions that are going to get asked every night about when is the sale complete, who's buying the team. I mean, the list goes on and on. adding this to the end of it of your GM not being signed, which had there not been them selling the team and that storyline playing out in San Diego, this would be by far the biggest thing going on. I mean, AJ Preller not having a contract. What sport do you see a GM not have a contract going forward, but is operating as if they are the manager or the GM going forward? It's like a lame duck situation. I'm with you. I mean, the more this plays on, the more they keep saying it's going to get done. It's going to get done. And yet it's not done. I'm with you. I mean, is he about to leave? Like it's a really odd situation that honestly, I don't have all the answers to.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I wish I had the perspective of like how often something like this plays out. I don't think it's not unprecedented. It's just a little unexpected / not the way you would typically want to do business in professional or college sports. Very rarely in college sports is a head coach working on the last year of a deal unless he's out. Because there's no assurance for future recruits. Like, why would I sign with this coach that only has 1 year on his deal?
Completely.
Why would I want to be here multiple years? And the same goes for professional sports. It's like, it's just a tenuous situation that I think the Padres have put maybe themselves in. I mean, listen, is it all on the Padres? Maybe not. I mean, have they already made the fair offer and now it's more on Preller to sign that offer? That's a possibility. But it's like, if you want him here, it's like anything. It's like, if you wanted Michael King, maybe you had to give him a third year. If you wanted Michael King, maybe you had to give him $25 million a year as opposed to $22.5 million a year. Like, how important is he? And if you're willing to find out, then there's always the risk of that. Because if you let him walk, there's no guarantee that the person that fills his shoes on the other side is capable of doing what he's done.
Well, and is Craig Stammen a lame duck manager as well? Because if you let Preller pick it, if you let Preller pick the manager,
right,
and then you're obviously, who knows if it's on Preller's side or Seiler's side or whoever, but you're letting Preller go out the door and you're not really locking him up, or obviously something's not right with the money. So if the be all end all was keep AJ Preller here, John Seiler would have done it. They would have wrote a blank check. So, and you let him pick the manager, is Craig Stammen? Is he a guy a year from now we're talking about on the outs? It just opens up a lot of questions, and it's such an odd situation that it's kind of playing out with the Padres.
It's an odd situation. That's 100% right. I mean, I liked what Kevin Acee said, who, by the way, will join us live at 5 p.m. He's like, why don't you have a contract extension? That is the question. That is the crux of the matter. Why don't you have a contract extension? You're in the year where the deal ends. Why don't you have an extension? All right. Nick Castellanos, we touched on this yesterday. It's now officially official as we projected. He's a free agent. Will he land in San Diego? Why or why not? Plus, what is the latest on the Padres sale? Rob Manfred weighs in. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, John Schaefer, Sammy Long. Do want to remind you the Brian Dutcher Show is tonight, Dutch, live at 6. I'll sit down with head coach of the Aztecs. We'll preview Saturday's game against Nevada. The Brian Dutcher Show tonight at 6. On your home for the Aztecs, San Diego Sports 760. In addition, Dave Velasquez, longtime Brian Dutcher and Steve Fisher assistant. He will join the show live at 3:30 to look ahead to Saturday. And Kevin Acee is on the show today at 5. And we've got San Diego State tickets to give away. And we have Charlie Puth tickets to give away. Anyway, to put the bow for the moment, Sammy, on AJ Preller's contract extension or lack thereof, and him speaking with the media, is that as you've heard, we've talked about this now for a month plus. There's something there that we're not getting really fully to the bottom of, but there's obviously something more than just, oh yeah, I wanted to sign it. It's just my Acrobat PDF is down.
Yeah. Well, to your point, it's easy to go to the presser when you're talking about acquiring free agents in the market and go, we're playing the market out. There's two sides to work out of this contract, and on a starting pitcher, we're going to let it play out. That's what you can say to the media. Mm-hmm. When it's literally, hey, John, would you like a new contract? Hey, got it right in front of you. Do you want to sign it? And then it's months on end of, yeah, I'm going to sign it. But it's not signed. The excuse of the excuse of I'm busy and why it hasn't signed, which is kind of astounding that's what they went to the mic with, is that they're busy and haven't had time to sign it, doesn't make a lot of sense and feels like a lot of PR to me.
No, I mean, to put it, to take people behind the curtain or curtains, it would never play out like that, by the way, in radio. Like, if I was offered an agreement, then I would either have to sign it or the company would walk away from me or I would walk away from the company. You see, right. And then all of a sudden, as you get closer to the end of your agreement, then all of a sudden there's a lot more risk or reward both ways. Like, why is John not signing his agreement? And that's a fair and legitimate question from the company.
And you're on the radio for 3 months without a contract. You're not beholden to any iHeart standards. Just say whatever you want.
No, so it's like, I mean, just use it in any line of work. Now, maybe a lot of our listeners, I mean, contracts are kind of like, it's very like sports centric. Like most people that work, most of my career, I didn't have a contract until I got into radio. When I was working in minor league baseball at a job, I could have been terminated or I could have left the job. By and large, most, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, I think most people, American workers, like you have a job. You're a tax accountant. You are a truck driver. Name any, you're a social worker. I mean, whatever your work is, by and large, you're not really contracted to the work. Professional sports are completely different. Everyone knows you're bound to contracts. Like, that's how the thing works. The issue right now with college athletics, there's no contracts.
Right.
It's like, what are we doing?
But you're signing NIL deals, getting all the money and be like, you know what? I'm transferring to Texas A&M.
So that's like the opposite of what we're talking about. But the way professional sports work, it's all centered on contracts. We get it. If Tatis is in the final year of a deal, you want to know about his future. If Machado's in the final year of his deal, you want to know about his future. Same thing with AJ Preller. And yeah, he doesn't play third base and hit third and hit 39 home runs, but you could argue his role is just as important as that. Not to say he's irreplaceable. He's not. Everyone can be replaced. There's going to be a world where he's not GM one day.
There has to be whoever's GM, ideally AJ Preller, I think, but if you don't want AJ Preller, someone else. There has to be someone who's out there fighting for the team with contracts and free agency and signings and trades. I mean, what is the incentive? And also, I think you saw this a little bit. It makes more sense to me now. I remember saying at the trade deadline last year, like it felt like it was kind of, I assumed it was the Padres telling AJ Preller, you're going to see how far you go this year. And if you don't make it to the World Series or win a couple playoff series, you were out. That's why I thought he was trading everyone at the deadline. Because to AJ Preller, DeVries is like, I don't want the next GM to come along and have this superstar. Like, why do I care if I'm fired in the offseason? That's why I kind of assumed it was
like he was going for it.
He was going for it. It's like, I don't care about the future of the team because I'm trying to win this year. My job depends on it. That's what I don't have any inside sources. That's what I thought was happening. And then when I thought the Padres got bounced, I thought Preller would be on the outs. And then he's here. He's still here. Doesn't have a contract, but he's still the GM of the Padres. It's kind of odd that the Padres are just not really feel like they're taking a side with this.
Here's the thing. After 30 minutes of talking about it and after 5 months of discussing it, I still lean on the side it gets done. But that's like going into a presidential election and being like, there's a 52% chance this candidate wins, and then the other candidate wins. You'd be like, all the polls are wrong. Like, there was a 52% chance.
Right, exactly.
It goes back to my plane theory. Nobody's going on a plane with a 52% chance of landing. You're so confident your candidate was going to win? And a 53% chance. So I would still lean, though, on Preller. Yeah, I'm giving it a 50-something% chance he's here. I think there's reasons to believe that gets done. But don't be like, oh, you said it was going to get done and he left. Well, yeah, because there's a very decent chance also that it doesn't get done, because it just feels like with each passing day, you're opening up the possibility that this doesn't get resolved.
Right. And it also opens up the possibility of, not that people are making big managerial changes right before spring training, but I mean, what if some team comes along and the Yankees are like, we're going to offer you a boatload of money, and what's tying AJ Preller? I mean, honestly, like, what is tying AJ Preller?
I mean, now I guess in theory, listen, he's under contract right now,
right, for one more year.
But honestly, that to your point, if it went south in terms of like it wasn't like if there was tension between the two sides, the organization and Preller, then yeah, he could. There'd be a way out, because at that point you could receive like draft capital for him, or like you could like trade a GM essentially.
Right, and I don't think you'd want, if you're the Padres, a GM you don't want going into the future making moves about the future of your organization. Exactly right. He could trade Fernando Tatis and for all he cares, because and that's not happening. I'm just saying, if he didn't have a contract going forward, what's his incentive to look out for the future of the team?
Yeah, 100%. No, I agree with what you're saying. All right, on the other side, the latest with Nick Castellanos. Could he be heading to San Diego or not? Plus, what Rob Manfred has to say about the future of the Padres. All ahead on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
The report is sponsored by Positive Coaching Alliance. In baseball news, the Dodgers and third baseman Max Muncy agreed to a 1-year contract extension worth $10 million guaranteed. The team also re-signed Kiki Hernandez to a 1-year contract worth $4.5 million. In college basketball news, North Carolina star Caleb Wilson, a projected top 5 pick in the 2026 NBA draft, is out with no timetable for return after he suffered a fractured left hand in a loss at Miami on Tuesday. And tonight at 6:00, it's the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show. The head coach sits down with John to preview Saturday's game against Nevada and more. And following the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show, we've got Lakers basketball when they take on the Mavericks. If you have questions about youth or high school sports, Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA delivers better athletes and better people through youth and high school sports. Info at positivecoach.org.
All right, San Diego Sports 760. John Schaefer, Sammy Long, with you until now. Sammy will be here until 3. I'll be here until 7. Because we've got the Brian Dutcher Show at 6 p.m. So if you've got a question for Dutch, it's early. He's not going to join us until 6 p.m. But if you do have a question for Dutch, you can text us 70470. Start it with the word team. It's getting to be, it's kind of crunch time for college basketball fans. Not kind of, it's crunch time. I mean, mid-February, you're a month out from Selection Sunday. And when you're in San Diego State's position, you could almost argue like it's, like what am I trying to say here? It's like if you're a fan of Kansas, Kansas is in the tournament. It's like it's not really crunch time for Kansas. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure Jayhawk fans are mad if they lose to Houston. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. They are. And
right. It's really about seeding
and hey, are we a 1 or 2 or 3? It all matters. I mean, Kansas, they're insane, or Kentucky. Same. You know, here it's different though, because it's like you're on this knife's edge where it's like a bad game and you're out of the tournament. Kansas has a bad game. They're not out of the tournament. They might be out of the seed they want to be in. But right now with San Diego State, it's like you're on this knife's edge where they've played well. They're 11-2 in the league. They've only lost twice in the last 2 months, but they're on this knife's edge because you lose a game you're not supposed to lose, Sammy, and you're on the outside looking in.
It's kind of odd how, I mean, it's a testament to college basketball and how much every game matters, especially if you're on a cut line, how if you took away, obviously you can't do this, but they played Troy and then they played the Players Era tournament. There were 3 games in there that you'd want to take back. If you could take back a week of basketball for the Aztecs, overall, I think it's been a really good body of work for this team. To your point, in the Mountain West Conference tournament or our conference schedule, they've been great. I mean, if you think about it, the one loss was in Grand Canyon with questionable officiating at the end of the game. And then Utah State, a game where they had a big lead in the first half, they tied it, and then they got another big lead. And Utah State's a very good basketball team and was able to win in the end. It is kind of odd how they're on this cut line. I mean, we talked about it. You could only afford a few losses, 7 games left. What do you think, John? Like 6-1 for that large? You can afford one loss?
You're like, I would be shocked. Now, again, I look at it through like the San Diego State lens, and the selection committee doesn't. There's all these teams, and that's understandable. But if San Diego State went 6-1, and I don't care what they do in the Mountain West tournament, honestly, assuming you can't lose to like Air Force, San Jose State, but I feel like if you go 6-1, you're firmly in the field. It's going to be very hard to go 6-1. They have to go to the Pit. They have Utah State at home. They got to go to Boise. Got to go to Colorado State. I mean, 6-1 would be awesome finish. You're 17-3 in the league. You have at least you're a co-champion at the very least, going 17-3. I mean, I think 5-2, you're at least giving yourself more than a puncher's chance.
5-2 is more about who you lose to,
and
right?
Then it's also about at 5-2, you're now probably going to have to do some work in the Mountain West tournament. You can't just afford a quarterfinal loss to Boise. This time around, in my opinion, you might have to get to a semifinal or a championship game. I think 6-1, you're good. I think 5-2, you the door is open still to get to the tournament. Anything worse than that's going to be hard.
I'm excited for this kind of finish. Nevada is going to be coming into San Diego State on Saturday. That's going to be a good game. They're going to want some get back after the Aztecs went in and got a big win over them. But at least the next, 2 big matchups, Nevada and Grand Canyon, are both at home.
Yep. Yeah,
to your point, we've talked about you got to go steal one in the Pit, New Mexico. At least if you're looking at it, most of your remaining tough matchups outside of New Mexico, I know Colorado State on the road's tough, but I mean, Utah State, Grand Canyon, Nevada, all coming to Viejas. You got to figure the Aztecs, assuming health, we'll see what happens, are favorites in most of those games just because of the home court advantage. But I mean, right, if you look at the Mountain West Conference schedule, this is a damn good basketball team. And yes, you can't eliminate what happened to Players Era Tournament. You can't eliminate what happened to Troy. But if you are the selection committee, maybe it factors in that if you're the Aztecs, you had your worst part of the season in the first couple weeks. You know, they're not as in the weeds with us about the Aztecs, about Magoon Guath just returning from injury at the time of the Players Era Tournament, and that certainly had an impact on how they played. But I think the health of LZ Harrington, Magoon Guath, they're going to be big down the stretch here to see their final record.
It's a really good point. The first game Magoon played this year was against Troy. He played really well. He scored 20 points, and they wanted him to play like 15 or 20 minutes that game, but it went double overtime. I think he ends up playing 30 minutes in that game. It was almost like it was a kind of a perfect storm, that Troy game, where you had the benefits of getting Magoon Guath back, but you also had the disadvantage of like taking on this highly motivated team that put together
and
like
nothing
50,
to lose.
Yeah, nothing to lose. They played well for 50 minutes. All right, I want to get back to Nick Castellanos. So he's now a free agent. There's some details from, I think, the Philadelphia Inquirer today from Matt Gelb about like the contentious relationship between Rob Thompson, the Phillies manager, and Nick Castellanos, where he literally like brought a beer into the dugout during a game. He was yelling at Rob Thompson. A little odd, but I feel like that might fit in well here.
I thought they'd love that in Philly.
Yeah,
I
a little
right
odd,
in.
like to like listen when you call out your manager in that regard, it's probably not going to end well. So, but here's what I would say. Okay, so Castellanos in Philadelphia, it ends unceremoniously. That doesn't mean it can't work somewhere else. I really feel that way. It's like you get the fresh start, you live and you learn. He's 34 years old. This is the same Padres team that says, what is this high school baseball? Who cares? If he can help you, he was just released. This is what an opportunity. You don't have to pay him anything. You can slide him in immediately. You don't have to trade away any prospects. Like, what am I missing here? Like, why wouldn't you be interested?
100% with you. I mean, that was the kind of big hang up was, I don't think if you're the Padres and we know their limited lack of spending, if you are going to break the bank and spend something, one last piece of this offseason, I'd prefer it to be a fifth starter over a bat. But them eating $20 million of the contract, the Phillies are eating. So you're not paying that. You're not paying in prospects, which we know the Padres are lacking one of the weakest farm systems. I believe they're technically 30th. The weakest right now. Your tweet, top 30. They're not looking too great in that department right now. But getting a guy who, we're talking about this earlier, the Phillies are like, I feel like the Buffalo Bills of the Major League Baseball is. They're like teams every year that we saw. I mean, the Phillies, Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber.
They've spent a lot of money.
Aaron Nola, Christopher Sanchez. I mean, you don't really understand why the lineup hasn't won. And I know they got to a World Series against the Astros, but Castellanos, for the lack of limited playoff success they've had, has had some big moments in those games. I know he hit 250 last year, but just 4 years removed, hitting 309. He's a flyer at 34 years old. I think for on the cheap on a minimum deal, it can't hurt. If he sucks, then all right, you didn't pay any money for him. And if he's great and can recapture any of that form that he has been in years past, you're looking at kind of a home run signing for the Padres.
Which is the right word choice, because the Padres can't hit home runs, or did not last year. Like, why wouldn't you? And I'm not saying that they don't. I think they probably do have interest. But why wouldn't you have interest if you might say, well, his numbers are down and his power is down? Well, the whole Padres team power has been down. Like, this is a guy that hit 17 home runs last year. It's not a massive number in 547 at bats, but like, he's hit 30 home runs as recently as 2023. Like, that's not that long ago. Me and Jim get on Darnay when he's like, the Padres signed blah, blah, blah. He had, 300 strikeouts in 2018. We're like, dude, it was 2018. Like, that was a lifetime ago. But I mean, I think you go back to 23 or 24. If you put a player in the Padres lineup and they hit 25 home runs, that is a massive addition, because they have so few players,
especially on a minimum contract.
Yeah, for no money. And they have so few players that have been capable of hitting 25 home runs. So I'm pretty fascinated to see where it goes. Like, watch, we're going to get the White Sox have signed Nick Castellanos. You know what I mean?
There were like 7 teams in on him. I saw in John Heyman's tweet. Do you think that drives, you'd think it would drive the price up, a little bit of a bidding war, but at the same time, I don't know if a 34-year-old slugger coming off one of the worst seasons of his career is having a bidding war for his services. Maybe it's more of a pick and choose where you want to go. And if that's the case, if you're Castellanos, you're looking in the NL, you're looking at a team with the Padres that has a good solid roster, a perennial playoff team, would be a lot more attractive than, to your point, going to the White Sox. And yeah, you can make a couple million more bucks and maybe that matters to him, but you're irrelevant.
Yeah, I would think if you're Nick Castellanos, you bring up a good point. The money would be secondary when you're coming off a 5-year, $100 million deal and you're 34. Money matters, but I would think the money would be secondary when you're owed still money by the Phillies. You're completing a $100 million deal. I would want to go to a team that can compete. Now, there's other teams that can compete. It's not like the Padres are perfectly positioned either to winning. So you could argue the merits of going somewhere else, but I think there's a lot to like there.
I think also maybe this is, I mean, we all know Bogarts gets a lot of flack for his contract and for not living up to that. If you're Nick Castellanos, you get to be a little bit under the radar. You get to be kind of the Gavin Sheets. Obviously, Castellanos has been a much better player in his career than Gavin Sheets before he became a Padre. But you kind of get to be the lifeblood injection. You get to be, you're not, relied upon to be a star. You're not like when you were at the Phillies. No, was he one of the top 3 biggest hitters? But Castellanos with that contract was expected to be a big time performer in big time moments. And the Padres, you're going to be able to play in some big time moments and not have all the pressure that's going to go on Tatis, Machado, Merrill, and Bogarts. You kind of get to be the other guy, which could be a nice role for him as he looks to get another contract after this year.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good point. And that's a possibility. Again, I think you just slide him in as like your 4th or 5th best hitter in a lineup, and maybe that can resurrect him for a year. All right. On the other side, what Rob Manfred had to say about the Padres' potential sale. And again, we've got tickets to give away for you here today. San Diego State Grand Canyon. We'll do that after Dave Velasquez, Aztec assistant, joins the show at 3:30. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760. Dave Velasquez, Aztec men's basketball assistant, friend of the show, will join us at 3:30. Brian Dutcher show at 6 p.m. Kevin AC live on AJ Preller's Future at 5 p.m. John Schaefer, Sammy Long. Did you see the quote from Rob Manfred today on the Padres?
About the ownership interest or the interest in the Padres?
It wasn't like earth shattering what he had to say, but he did say that there is robust interest in the San Diego Padres. Now I'm trying to find the quote.
I think that's what he said. It's
something
that's
along
great.
the lines of there's robust interest. He's like, I'm not going to comment on it, but what I can say, where is this?
Do you think that's kind of odd of Rob Manfred to say?
Well, I don't know where he was speaking. Maybe it's just the general, hey, spring training's underway. I'm going to speak in one of these sides. Rob Manfred on the San Diego Padres sale process. The best I can tell you on the Padres is there is a robust interest on what is viewed as a really appealing asset. Okay. I mean, he represents ownerships. So, yeah, what else is he going to say? Be like, oh, man, we got a problem in San Diego.
No one wants to buy the team.
Yeah, he's not going to say that. But it does, I guess, validate some of the reporting, which is like there's multiple parties that are interested in this team. And now Rob Manfred's kind of going down that path. I think at the end of the day, the Padres are a very I think among the 30 clubs, there's a lot of reasons to say you would buy high on the Padres.
Well,
right?
you're buying a team that has stars with it that you don't have to build up from the ground. You have a great fan base, a beautiful ballpark. You're starting on second base, not to just use a baseball term, other than a lot of franchises where it's like, okay, you got to build this thing from the ground up and create interest. Hopefully, John Seiler certainly hasn't shown the interest that Peter did in the ball club and the city and building a winner. Hopefully John Seiler does right. And if you do have a bidding war, if this is true, what Rob Manfred is saying, and that there's robust interest, you're selling to someone who has a real passion for the team, and number two, or has a passion for spending with the team, trying to spend with the Dodgers or spend with teams like that versus just selling it to whoever you can get the most money for.
You know what's funny is I don't care at all if the Padres sell for a record-breaking number or not. In fact, I'd almost be inclined that they don't have a bidding war play out. Here's the reason. Because if you got two groups and they're both trying to pay 2.5 and they both really want it and they go to 3 to get the deal done, that's $500 million in assets used that potentially play a role in how you're going to run the club. So think about that. Like, if this gets done on the quote unquote cheap and that frees up assets potentially moving forward, I'm fine. What do I care? Seriously, what do I care what John Seidler gets out of the sale? What I care about is getting the right group in here that's willing to go above and beyond. Kind of like Peter. Now, easier said than done. I don't know if there's anyone out there that's going to do that, but the difference between a good owner and a bad owner is huge in sports. So I just want the right owner. I don't care what the sale amount is. Now I would say this: if you don't get the right dollar amount, they might just not sell it. But like if someone told me, oh, they only got 197 for it, I don't care. You know, like what impact does that have on me, you, our listeners, Padres fans? The dollar amount.
I also think it's funny how some people like Freakin is from San Diego, I believe, right?
Yes,
okay.
That's right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people who are like, oh, sell it to him because he's from San Diego. That's great if we're assuming that he's from San Diego, he's going to care about the team.
Right.
But this whole, like, it has to be a hometown cook and hometown guy or a woman. It's like, no, whoever is, if they're from the Bay, if it's Lacob and he's interested in building a dynasty like he did with the Warriors in the NBA about the Padres, that should be the hope for the team, is that someone's coming in, regardless of where they're from, regardless of how much money they have, that it is about being able to spend and try to really get over the hump. Because just because Freakin, I don't know, maybe he is willing to spend, everyone's like, he has the highest net worth. He has 10 billion, 9.9 billion. Well, that doesn't mean he's necessarily going to spend all that. Ideally, you would think that someone who has more money are going to be more free with their checkbook, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the case. So it's really about finding the right potential buyer who is invested in spending on the team.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and we had this conversation, I think, when we found out they were exploring the sale. I mean, the person could be from the North Pole. You know, like being from San Diego. I mean, was Dean Spanos raised in San Diego? You know, like what does
Right.
being from San Diego automatically mean? Again, I'm not saying it's not a detriment. It's not a
Ideally, it'd be a
negative.
great story.
It's
But
a great story, but if you're from Fargo, and you're invested and you have the resources and you have the wherewithal and the means to do it, I'm okay with that as well. So I think a lot of people are going to they're going to jump to immediate conclusions, like right owner, wrong owner, like tied to this Premier League team, they don't win, or tied to San Diego, yay. You have to see it play out in action. That's the only thing that's going to matter. I mean, the thing that separated Peter Seidler from other owners in the history of sports in San Diego is his actions, his desire, and his willingness.
He said we want to beat the team up north, the Dodgers, but a lot of people say that. John Seidler says that, but he didn't spend like it. Peter actually put his money where his mouth is. So that's why he is, obviously, I don't need to tell everyone that, but that's why he's so respected in the city as such a great owner.
Yeah, exactly. So again, I hope that it's another thing that's kind of hanging over the season. You only want so many things hanging over your season. In fact, AJ Preller earlier this afternoon, we played an hour ago, was asked that specific question. Do you want your contract status resolved by opening day because you don't want it to impact the club once the season starts? I would say the same thing about ownership. Do you want the sale completed by opening day because you don't want the distraction of it's June 1st and the team was just sold to a Saudi prince, you know what I mean? Or whomever. And then all of a sudden, well, what's the direction of the organization going to be? Like, you want all these questions answered sooner rather than later. Now, we don't control all timelines, and things happen in sports. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be trades. There's going to be highs. There's going to be lows. But what you can control, you would like to control.
You would also think, not that the Padres are showing recently that they're spending a lot of loot on long-term contracts, but you would think if I was a star pitcher and I was interested in the Padres, I'd be asking about Preller and his contract. If Preller wants me here and he's the guy that's recruiting me, I think I would be going, well, you're not necessarily here for the foreseeable future. So what's to say that the next GM is not going to trade me or cut me, like whatever. I think there's also questions there with like acquisitions. And again, it's not like it's a start of free agency where they're big game hunting in on some big pieces, but certainly a fifth starter is really needed for this franchise. And I think that's a legit question that potential free agents would ask.
Yeah. And again, who buys a team and then is like, oh, this is good. What they're doing is great. Like, GM, great. COO, like now again, Padres are well run by from the outside looking in, that they've been marketed well. They've got a great ballpark. They sell out most games. They've won at a good clip. So it's not to say someone's going to come in and be like, let me show you how to run this team. I think the team is probably being run effectively, but typically when you buy something, you put your own stamp on it. You don't just buy it and sit by the wayside.
Right. You want to show why you're the new owner in town.
Exactly. Sammy,
my guy,
you boys, you're not here tomorrow, right? Or you're here but not here?
I am. I will be on with Fletch and I'm up in LA tomorrow doing it remote.
So we don't have Sammy tomorrow at 2 p.m., but you do have him on with Fletch.
Yeah. I'll be on tomorrow from 12 to 2.
Okay, so Sammy, appreciate you, man. We'll see you next week. All right, on the other side again, Dave Velasquez will join us at 3:30. We're giving away Aztec tickets to the upcoming Grand Canyon game on Tuesday night. Plus, we have tickets to see Charlie Puth to give away. And Kevin Acey's on the show at 5 p.m. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio.
I gotta get on a train.
Are you?
I'm taking a train up there.
What the frick is going on there? I'm in here. Oh.
This report is sponsored by eBay. In baseball news, the Dodgers and third baseman Max Muncy agreed to a one-year contract extension worth $10 million guaranteed today. And the Dodgers also re-signed Kike Hernandez to a one-year deal worth $4.5 million. Tonight at 6 o'clock, it's the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show. The head coach sits down with Jon to preview Saturday's game against Nevada and more. And following the Coaches Show, we've got Lakers basketball when the team takes on the Mavericks. Imagine what you can find on eBay, like a rare hologram trading card that you've become totally obsessed with, shiny like the designer handbag of your dreams. eBay has it. They even have the perfect parts that will fit your car. Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay.
All right, hour two, San Diego Sports 760, John Schaefer, Brent Sperry. With you until the Brian Dutcher Show at 6 p.m. So let's get you ready for the next 3 hours. Dave Velasquez will join us in 30 minutes. We'll talk some Aztec hoops with the longtime San Diego State assistant. Then Kevin Acee will join us live at 5 p.m. He's been in Peoria all week long. AJ Preller spoke with the media, as you heard earlier. And Kevin Acee asked him very directly, why don't you have a contract extension? And that started about a 4-minute dialogue about AJ Preller and his future. So that is obviously a massive talking point. I think the other talking point is, what do they still need to do to complete this roster? We spent some time yesterday talking about Nick Castellanos. I mean, the Castellanos thing happened quickly in terms of he was expected or he was asked not to report, and then they released him. And now he's a free agent, and I would expect that we get some news on where he lands at some point relatively quick as well. it's an interesting time in general, I think, to be a Padres fan to begin 2026 because they're in, I think, organizational limbo, and they're also in a spot with their roster where you're like, are you holding on with some of your aging core, or are you kind of turning the page to your young group? Like I'm talking about, like, is this Jackson Merrill and Fernando Tatis Jr.'s team? Because if it is, like, nobody's going to tell that to Manny Machado. Is kind of my point. Or is this Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts' team and Joe Musgrove's team? Who's is this? I mean, certainly it's not John Seiler's team. They're exploring a sale. Is this AJ Preller's team? We don't even know if he's under contract beyond this year. So, like, is that fair to say? Like, we're starting a year and there's questions. Every team has them, Brent. But I'm like, okay, who's the owner? Stay tuned. Who's the GM? AJ Preller, but stay tuned. Who's the leader? It's Machado, right? But is it, or is it more like the young? Like, are you kind of turning the page towards the Tatises and the Merrills? And how are they going to finish off this roster? So again, it's February, so there's time to answer some of these questions. But I would say it's kind of an interesting time to be a Padres fan.
I think the young guys could be the leaders if they step up. If they both have good seasons, I think that they could just take it over by default. I said a couple weeks ago that, I think Manny would somewhat welcome, some of the weight being off of his shoulders and not having to answer, questions for every time something goes wrong. He's the de facto leader, so he gets the answers. So I think if Merrill or Tatis come out and, hit 30 home runs or something like that this year and just have a big season, I think they could just become the leaders just by their play.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. I mean, it is. It's just I don't even know the general point. I'm kind of just talking through it on air. It's like you're in this newer era. Craig Stammen is now your first year manager, and your ownership group is going to change. That happens. Managers change. That happens. Shoot, GMs can even change. That happens. I guess my question is, are they holding on to a window right now? Like in 2022, it's like they're going to break through. Is that they got to the NLCS? They just went through the Dodgers. I'm not saying it was inevitable, but there was a belief among Padres fans coming off 2022 with Soto returning in 2023. Shoot, at the time he was under contract for 2 years. They would later trade him after one more year because of the failure of 2023. But the belief coming out of 2022 is it's a matter of time. Not that it was a guarantee. Nobody's like, trust me, I guarantee you the Padres are winning a World Series. But it felt like maybe a matter of time they would break through and get to a World Series. I think that was fair coming out of 2022. And then we had this reset in 2023 where anything that could go wrong did. And then they've gone backwards a little bit since 2022 ever since, because you had the Dodgers debacle of the postseason in 2024. I wouldn't call last year against the Cubs a debacle. Just was disappointing. They did not live up to their, I think, potential in that series, even with it being a short series. And now it's like, are we just expecting them to, well, it's still inevitable that they're break through, or are they just kind of holding on right now because they've got headwinds? Like, we don't know what ownership wants to spend. And AJ Preller, who knows what his future is? You've got a first-year manager. Like, I just don't feel like it's fair to say that the expectations today should be as high as they were 3 years ago, because I don't know. I feel like that's very, very, very wishful to say that, hey, trust me, despite everything that's played out the last 3 or 4 years, they're about to break through and win 97 games. That's how I feel about it. But again, the beauty of sports in general is there's a lot of unpredictability to it. There really is. We make so much of it in the offseason. Oh, you got to do this. You got to do. At the end of the day, it's like, you play well for a week and you put yourself in a position maybe to make the postseason. Like, you have the right group in a clubhouse and all of a sudden they're aligned. You don't have to have the best team. You have to have a team that believes in itself, that finds ways to win. I mean, last year they made the playoffs based on what they did the first 2 weeks of the year. After the first 2 weeks of the year, they were probably a very average team, but they got off to such a good start, they made the postseason. So again, it's not like we're asking the world of them. I'm not saying they have to win 100 games in order to win a World Series. I hope there's still enough in there, because I'm looking at these projections, Fangraphs, Pacoda, you're looking at the headwinds, ownership change, what AJ Preller's saying. I'm looking at Manny Machado's numbers, his age. Just, are they holding on? And how much longer are they holding on?
I feel like to a certain degree, it does feel like they're just kind of holding on. It's kind of like, you bought a house and now you're starting to get behind on the bills. You're still making the payments and you're paying the bills, but every week you're, paycheck to paycheck and you're just barely getting by and you're just barely making the payments. And it kind of feels like they got the team together and they're just kind of holding on to the point to where they barely have enough money to keep the team together or to afford their house, but they're going to hold on. They're going to try and hold on to the house as long as possible until, they have no other choice, but they have to sell.
I like this analogy. Well, because literally they may have to sell, but you're right. They may have to sell off parts. But the reason I like this analogy is the Padres are house poor with their roster because all of their money is tied up in their current roster. Like typically what you would do as a homeowner, although a lot of people end up in this situation. I'm a homeowner and I can completely sympathize with ending up in this situation. All of a sudden, a lot of your money is tied up in the home. And all of a sudden, like other people are eating out and buying cars or going on vacation. You'd love to do it, except such a high percentage of your salary and wages are going into your house. On one hand, great. You're a homeowner. On another hand, you can't do the things you maybe could have done previously. I think it's a really good point. It's like you got Fernando Tatis Jr. on a $300 million deal. You have Machado on a $300 million deal. And down the line, I don't need to list them all, Bogarts, and down the line. But you can't go out and land Chris Bassett on a 1-year, $18 million deal. You can't trade for Nick Castellanos. Now, he's been released, thankfully. So I think you can get involved in that because you have pennies, not dollars, or you have dollars, not hundreds of dollars, whatever you want to say. But yeah, I think that's the right way to look at it. Like, nice home. But what else can you do? You got the nice home, but now you can't make the improvements. And that really has played out for the last couple of years. It's like, that's where Preller to me gets credit for like the creativity to be able to make some of these moves without adding huge dollars and keep this team competitive. Like Preller it is true. Like there's a little bit of a blessing and a curse in there. He signed these deals. He put them maybe in an unfavorable financial position with the backing of ownership. And now he's also provided some creativity and flexibility to get him out from underneath some of this mess as well, to keep the thing going in the right direction. I just wonder, going back to our conversation from an hour ago when we heard from Preller an hour ago, if Preller wasn't in charge in his role, would the next person be able to hold on like he's been able to hold on with this collection? Or would the next person have a completely different vision and be like, yo, we're house poor. Let's get out from underneath and rebuild. And not truly rebuild. I don't think that they would hire a general manager under the approval of a new ownership group or the current ownership group. And the guy would be like, trust me, let's rebuild. And they'd be like, gotcha. I don't mean it in the rebuild sports sense, but I do mean it in like, we have to remake the way we've allocated these dollars. And it's not going to be easy to do that potentially, where I think if there was a new general manager, I do think there'd be some really tough decisions that maybe the Padres haven't currently had to make under Preller. So that would be my fear if you ever kind of walked away from Preller in the short term, that like the next person might look at the books and be like, what are we doing with this roster? It's not that we can't win with what I want to do. It's just we need to get out from underneath some of these contracts to put ourselves in a better, more like solvent position moving forward. That would be my primary concern if AJ Preller walked.
Well, yeah, because the new guy is going to want to actually be able to sign free agents that cost more than $5 million a year in future seasons. So, and it's kind of one of those things too, where when you hire like a new head coach, he's going to bring in his own guys. He's not going to keep the old coaching staff. So if they would bring in a new GM, there's no saying that he's not going to want to, go, I don't want these. These are AJ's guys. These aren't my guys. Kind of like if college football, when you come in there, you might come into a new program that first year. None of those guys are your guys. They're the previous, coaches' guys. So you're just going to have to deal with them for the year until you get your own people in there.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, this is more of like a kind of big picture thinking. Like, listen, 2026 is coming. There's no stopping it. There's not going to be these wholesale changes. They could sell this team tomorrow. There's not wholesale changes to the roster. AJ Preller could walk tomorrow. He's not. There wouldn't be wholesale changes to the roster. But you start looking ahead, and if you're changing the direction of the organization, you could be changing the direction of your club. That's my point, and that's probably more for 2027 and beyond than it would be for 2026. Right now, it's like, are you back in position to do what you've done the last couple of years, which is to win 90 games, find a way, put it all together, compete, contend, get into the postseason and see what happens? Yeah, hopefully they are. I still think, again, the number 5 spot we'll talk about obsessively until the season, number 5 spot in the rotation, adding a bat, potentially like the Nick Castellanos thing that we've been talking about over the last 24 hours. But by and large, their team, their spending is completed by and large. Don't expect some $30 million signing because that's extremely unlikely. Do expect, a couple of million here or a couple of million there. I do think that's to be expected. And maybe the 5th starter will spend more. Again, they passed on Chris Bassett, who's going to make $18 million. So, maybe they got 10 or 12 for that type of acquisition, but they didn't have 18. All right, Dave Velasquez is going to join us coming up at 3:30. Rob Manfred speaking today had more to say in regards to not just the Padres, but the state of baseball. And we'll share some of that with you coming up as well. The Aztecs football team has a Pac-12 schedule for 2026. And again, Dave Velasquez, longtime San Diego State basketball assistant, will join us at 3:30. And then we'll give away some Aztec tickets for next Tuesday night against Grand Canyon. This is San Diego Sports 760. And we're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, Dave Velasquez is going to join us, San Diego State men's basketball assistant. He'll join us in about 11 minutes. So looking forward to catching up with Dave Velasquez. Brian Dutcher is live on the show at 6 p.m. The Brian Dutcher Show, in fact, is at 6 p.m. I saw this today. You know, we've spent a little time talking about the Olympics. Right now we have NHLers in this version of the Olympics that just got underway with the U.S. actually earlier today. And that's the first time you've had National Hockey League players in the Olympics in 12 years. So Rob Manfred said today, remember, he spoke on a variety of topics. I'm not sure where it was. He talked about the Padres' potential sale. He also said they're working towards getting major leaguers in the Olympics. So that's because, again, it's in Los Angeles. So it's already in the U.S. where we're playing Major League Baseball. Now, this would cause a bit of a stir for the regular season. It's still to be determined. I think the length of the baseball event in the 2028 Olympics is in. They might do it in a week where you just play every day. And there's like, round robin play for 3 days and then like tournament play for 3 days is done. So it's like 6 days of baseball and you stop playing Major League Baseball, making it up for 8-9 days. And then you get on with it. I think that's a possibility, or maybe it would be more, be longer than that. I mean, listen, the games are in America. Typically, when it doesn't involve major league players, I'm sorry, I just don't have an interest. Like, I'm not going to watch Olympic baseball between Costa Rica and Japan when none of the players have professional experience, or U.S. against Mexico, or you know what I mean? Like, it's not hitting home. It's the same. We say this with so many things. I mean, we'd probably say that with, hockey at the Olympics. Again, let's use basketball. If NBA players weren't in the Olympics, it has a much different appeal. I'm not saying it's not appealing at all. If you told me it was college stars, okay. Me personally, I could get behind something like that. But I think I'd much prefer having, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander to a Canadian college player play for Team Canada is how I look at it. And I mean, shoot, if you're going to be playing these games in Los Angeles, and if it's during the Major League season, I don't know. I could be convinced of putting Major League players in the event. I mean, what do you think? I mean, how would I compare an Olympic Games with major leaguers to the WBC with major leaguers? Like, what's going to be held in higher esteem? I mean, Olympics, you're coming away with actual Olympic medals. WBC has been played now, 5, 6, 7 times over 20 plus years. And there's a lot of passion in playing for your country in that event. But, if you don't have major leaguers, Brent, in the Olympics, then you're just playing Major League Baseball around the Olympics. And are you kind of getting lost in that anyway, with the Olympics being in your homeland in the U.S.? And you're just playing like Pirates Brewers games?
I don't know. I could go either way. For me, there's not much difference between the Olympics and the World Baseball Classic.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the Olympics is the bigger stage and the bigger event. But for me, I'm not going to, we always talk about like when the Padres played in Korea that time when it was like 3 a.m. I'm not going to get up at 3 a.m. to watch either Olympic baseball or WBC. So I don't know. Sometimes for the Olympics, I like the amateur part of it because, that was like the whole allure of the whole Miracle on Ice thing was because those are all amateurs and college kids. And, they went up against the, powerhouse Russians. I think, especially if they do that in baseball, it's going to be not as bad as it was when they did it in the NBA, to where when the Dream Team started, it was the Dream Team, and then like, Lithuania would have like 2 players, and then like there'd only be like 7 other non-American players in the league. Baseball is going to be a little different. It's kind of it'll be the US, Japan, probably Mexico. And so I think it'll be like a handful of good teams, but then I think there's going to be a handful of teams that, are going to be the equivalent of the Jamaican bobsled team of baseball, to where they don't really belong.
Here's the thing. I've gotten the details. I had read this before, but it probably been a year. Here's what they're going to do. It's a 6-nation tournament. That's nothing, by the way. 3 of them are getting medals. I find that almost ridiculous on its face. It's a 6-nation tournament, July 13th through the 19th. That's it at Dodger Stadium. That's the entire event. So how many days? That's 7 days. 13, 14. That's 7 days. And Major League Baseball is planning for an extended All-Star break from the 9th until the 21st and play the All-Star game the 11th in San Francisco, already in California, 2 days before the start of the Olympics. So they're talking about a 12 or 13 day baseball break, Major League Baseball break, for a 6 or 7 day baseball tournament in the Olympics.
So have they already decided the 9 countries, or are they going to have like
They'll
a
be
play-in
sure they'll
tournament or qualify?
I would get. I mean, but you're right. Like, if you're only going to have 6 nations, well, the U.S. is not. They're hosting.
Yeah.
So U.S. is one of them. Now we only have 5. Well, Japan better be in this event. How could they not?
China will be in it.
Yeah, I mean, I would think Canada would absolutely have to be in this. But then the Dominican would have to be in this. So, yeah, it's a good point. I mean, the WBC has a lot more than 6. I don't know what it is, 16?
Yeah, it's
like
more
4
than 6.
pools of 4, something like that at this final round that's going to get underway in March. But isn't that kind of like we're putting baseball in the Olympics, and it's been in and out over the years, and it's 6 nations, and 3 of them get medals?
20 teams in the WBC.
Yeah, it's 20 in the WBC, and you got 1 champion. Now we got 6 in the Olympics, and 3 get medals, which means third is going to play 4th for the bronze medal. Like, that means the top 4 are playing for a medal out of 6. All right, Dave Velasquez, we're talking some San Diego State hoops coming up next on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. In Major League Baseball news, the Dodgers and third baseman Max Muncy agreed to a 1-year contract extension worth $10 million today. The team also re-signed Kiki Hernandez to a 1-year deal worth $4.5 million. Tonight at 6, it's the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show. John sits down with the head coach to preview Saturday's game against Nevada. Following the Coaches Show, we've got Lakers basketball when what's left of the team takes on the Mavericks. Some people just know that you can save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Those people are probably saving a carload of cash right now. So what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate.
All right, let's talk some Aztec hoops with San Diego State longtime assistant Dave Velasquez. Aztecs a week between games, winning at Air Force this past weekend, getting ready for Nevada coming up Saturday at 7 at Viejas Arena. If tickets remain, make sure to grab them at goaztecs.com. A big one. They're all big this time of year. So, Coach, appreciate you taking some time for us here on the home of the Aztecs. What's this week been like to this point? Again, you've been playing so often. Now you can take a little bit of a deep breath. What have you been collectively working on over the last handful of days?
We're really, it was nice to have a couple days to focus on ourselves and especially start going through the most important time of the year where we have a lot of late game situations. So we've been doing a lot of late game situation stuff and kind of clean up some other stuff that didn't have enough time. We're always focused so much on the other team so much. That's been good. We've got to rest our legs as well. And with all that being said, we feel like we're in a good groove coming into this bye week, but I know our players needed it. The coaches needed it. Just kind of a quick deep breath. And then we're back to work today, getting ready for Nevada.
So what are you seeing right now defensively? Because you can look at some of these efficiency numbers and they keep showing improvement from SDSU in general. I mean, you look at KenPom right now, I think San Diego State's defensive efficiency is 15th in the country, which means probably over the last 6 weeks, it's somewhere in the top 10, if not higher than that. What are you seeing? What is changing with this team over the last handful of weeks?
I think that a lot of it is we had a lot of new guys or guys in new roles, and for them to not have to think and just react, I think we're just playing more free. We're way more connected than we were early in the season. And then the last thing is for any San Diego State fan that watched us play from the past, we are starting to look like a San Diego State Aztec defense. I mean, we are always protecting the rim. Our scouting reports have been really well followed by our guys. And to me, it's just, as the season progresses, it's a very standard to me what a Brian Dutcher team is, which just gets better and better and better. And Coach Fisher seems the same way. As the season went on, when guys really started to get comfortable in their roles, understood what the coach were asking for, understood other players' strengths and weaknesses, it was always fun this time of year because you could feel the team, how much better they got. And now they started to even play with more confidence. They have more confidence now. And hey, we need to get these 2 stops. We got to go on a run. We're going to make our offense is going to start with our defense. And it's been fun to coach, and it's been awesome to see the progress our team has made.
Dave Velasquez with us right now. Again, the Aztecs get Nevada on Saturday night at Viejas at 7. Our pregame coverage is going to begin at 6 p.m. I guess I would ask it like this. I mean, you couldn't really ask to be in a better spot within the league, right? Like you've got everything in front of you with 7 regular season games to play. I mean, this is where you kind of want it to be if you would have fast forwarded from the start of conference play, right?
Yeah, I mean, you never want to lose any game, but yeah, realistically, you feel like you're in a good spot going into this final stretch of 7 games. And they're all going to be hard. That's the other thing. You're playing the top half of the league for most of those games. Out of the 6 out of those 7 games, I think are the top half. And so, it's not going to be easy, and it's going to take everybody. And hopefully, we can get Magoon Guath and Elsie Harrington back on the floor to help us. And they both will be huge pieces for us as we finish this year. But at the same time, we've had some guys step up. I mean, Taj DeGorville's been playing awesome for the last month. And, Tay Simmons at times, he's playing even a little bit of 5-man for us. We've been in some foul trouble. And, how that looks and how that feels out there has been really good for us as a team to see Tay come along as a freshman. And so there's guys that have been stepping up. And, and it's been a fun team to coach, to see their progress, how much better we've gotten since the beginning of the season.
You've touched a little bit on, I think you've told me before, like with Reese Dixon Waters, his offensive game is so impressive that there's times where it's like he takes a shot and it doesn't go in. You're like, how did that not go in? I mean, this guy is such an elite shooter, but now you see the way he's playing, where he's been in double figures all these games in a row, and he's had some massive scoring games. What is allowing him to be playing some of his best basketball of his career right now?
If you're going to ask me, I'll give you an answer that you probably weren't expecting to hear, but he's playing with joy.
Right.
He's comfortable. You could see how the less pressure that he's putting on himself and how much more fun he's having playing the game. And, he's such an elite scorer. And I think the other thing he's done a really good job of is getting to that free throw line. And I think early in the year, we weren't getting him fouled as much, and he wasn't getting himself to the line as much. And I think now, he's become such a complete scorer, from being able to get to the foul line, score around the basket. He's obviously one of his best shots to the mid-range. And then obviously he can shoot the three, so off the catch or the dribble. So he's, we know how good Reese is, and he'll continue to be that for us. And it was fun even watching him today at practice. He was awesome today at practice. On both ends of the floor. And a lot of it, too, has just kind of been lost in just playing as hard as he could defensively, and then the offense will come. And I think just to see that progression from him throughout the season. And it's always hard on older guys. They feel like the end is so near when the season starts, and it's not. And then by this time of the year, they really start to appreciate, that it is coming to an end. But at the same time, like, all right, I know this. I've been through these, kind of these battles with other teams before. I know how the pit's going to feel. I know what Nevada, when they come in our place on Saturday, how that's going to feel. Like, they've been through this. And so it's been fun to see Reese. And again, I think joy is the number one reason he's playing a lot better.
Yeah, no, that's really good perspective. Dave Velasquez with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. I'm curious just to get your general thoughts on the league this year. This has been such a good league, right? With all the NCAA tournament teams over the last handful of years. It's still a really good league. I don't know if it's going to get rewarded like it's been rewarded the last few years in terms of sheer number of teams in the tournament, but what are you seeing from the Mountain West this year?
It is a little different. I don't think we can just bury our head in the sand and say it's not. But at the same time, what's not different are the home court advantages. I've been just unbelievable on how some teams play at home. And then also, it's one of those leagues that's like, we're consistent. You know what you're going to get out of Grand Canyon when you turn on the TV. You know what Utah State's going to look like. San Diego State's going to defend. Like, you can start going through everybody. New Mexico to me is one that's, hat tip to Coach Eric Olin. The winning with two freshmen out there, and one of them being a San Diego kid, and then just putting that new roster together and how connected they are has been impressive to watch. And again, we just have massive respect for everybody in this league. And a lot of them are a little bit of different situation in San Diego State. They're constantly having to put together a new roster like year after year after year. You look at ULV. ULV doesn't have one single returning player from their team last year because of a new coach situation. New Mexico is, I think, the same way. So you go through all these, and it's just, to me, it's impressive. This league is always always had good players, always has really good home court environments, and always has really good coaching. You can just tell. And so it's nothing new, but yeah, like you said, I don't know if we'll get rewarded as much as we have in the past. With all that being said, everybody's hard to beat. It's every game you go out and play. It's tough. It's never easy.
One of the teams that has really changed its fortunes from last year with a ton of change with the roster is Nevada under Steve Alford. Obviously, you saw him not long ago. It feels like forever ago, but it was in January, just a month ago. And that was obviously a very closely played game. What are you seeing from the way Nevada has played here recently? A talented group, good scores. Think about Corey Camper and Comer, Elijah Price. We've seen the league for the last 2 years. What type of challenge and opportunity is Saturday?
Well, it's interesting. They can really score. It's one of those teams, when they're scoring that ball, they get hot and they get streaky and they get on rolls. And they're also one of those teams, they're down 30-10 against Boise State. And they come back and take them to overtime. They just know that at any point they can rattle off, 4 or 5 straight possessions where they could score the ball. And then defensively, they're really good. Elijah Price, the center who actually transferred from Fresno, he's a big time defender. He just protects the rim. And to me, they're a team, again, when you're that well coached and you have older guys like they have, like, you're going to get better. So Camper, who's almost averaging 20 points now in conference, he didn't look the same way when we played him the last time. Like, he has got better over the last, 4 to 5 weeks. And same thing with all of them. I mean, they're a team that's dangerous. They know their roles. They accepted their roles, and they're playing really well in their roles right now. They're again, there's a reason why they're at the top of the top half of this league. And a lot of that has to do with the way they can score the ball. So it's going to be a challenge for us. And I just feel like both teams have got, so you turn on some of these games, and not only you forget some, a player or two here that happened in the game, but at the same time, it's like there's so many things that we did that we're hoping not to do again. They're like, we can learn from that, and we have learned from that, and that will be different. But at the same time, we know they'll be different. They won't make the same mistakes. So it's going to be a great game on Saturday.
It really will. This is the beginning of a 2-game homestand here for San Diego State because Grand Canyon is coming to Viejas on Tuesday. Is this easy or hard when you get to this time of year and not worry about anything other than your upcoming opponent? You know what I mean? Everyone's talking about bracketology and March Madness and Mountain West Tournament and seeding in your own league. Do you find that do the players concern themselves with that outside noise? I mean, everyone's on a phone constantly, but are they able to just lock in like they maybe did 15 years ago?
Oh, I mean, I don't know if they did it 15 years ago either. I mean, no, I don't think you concern yourself with it. I don't think you consume any time with it. But yeah, everybody's a college basketball fan,
right?
And you're obviously keeping an eye on it. And I don't know how much energy you're putting towards it or emotion at all, because it changes. I mean, especially in a league that we're in. I mean, things can change over a week, and so again, it's one of those things. It exists, but you don't put too much time on it. But no, I'm not going to sit here and act like it doesn't exist and like be like Bill Belichick and say, "Oh yeah, on to Cincinnati after every single game." I mean, no, of course it's there, and our guys get excited about it. I mean, it's the whole reason to come to San Diego State. I mean, you come here to win championships, put up banners, and play in March.
You're in a position to potentially do that here in 2026. I'll leave the refreshing of Ken Palm and bracketologists to me. I'll take care of that. Let them play basketball. Dave, great to connect. I will see you on Saturday. Thanks for taking some time for us.
You're the best. Go ahead.
Appreciate you. Dave Velasquez, who has done just a terrific job, whether it's for Brian Dutcher or Steve Fisher. He has been here since basically San Diego State has had its run of success over the last 2+ decades. All right, coming up at 5 p.m., by the way, Kevin Acee will join us live. So Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, will join us live. The latest on A.J. Preller's uncertain future. He talked about his contract status. So we'll hear from Kevin Acee at 5 p.m. Also on the other side, we'll give away Aztec tickets. We'll do that coming up next. San Diego State Grand Canyon next Tuesday night. That's next on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760 has 13 chances to win $1,000 every weekday. It's the bonus bucks giveaway. Listen every hour, 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. You could be like Michelle, who 2 weeks ago walked away with $1,000 after listening to San Diego Sports 760. All you need to do is listen for the keyword, then enter it at sportssd.com, like Michelle did. Next chance to win $1,000 coming up at 4 p.m. That could be you, our next $1,000 winner. Text line, by the way, open. If you want to get your text in, 70470. You can start your message with the word team. Again, 70470. Start it with the word team. If you have a question for Brian Dutcher, he'll join us live for the Brian Dutcher Show coming up at 6 p.m. tonight. So, again, if you got a question for Dutch, you can text us, 70470. Start it with the word team. We'll give away Aztec basketball tickets coming up in about 7 or 8 minutes. Someone just mentioned this in the chat, Brian, this idea that Padres don't need Nick Castellanos. He's a clubhouse cancer, right? You're hearing this play out. I mean, there's a report today from Matt Gale, maybe it's at The Athletic, that details all of the issues that the Phillies experienced with Castellanos in 2025. I mean, a ridiculous story includes Castellanos bringing beer into the dugout during a game and chastising Rob Thompson. That's their manager, the Phillies manager. It's a little bit unconventional, right? It's a little bit atypical, especially in today's sports where everything is documented and on HD TV. You can't get away with anything anymore. It's not 1984 where things were happening. So my response to that is, I'm not concerned. I'm just not. The things that happen away from the white lines will happen. Whether you have Nick Castellanos or Manny Machado, there's going to be adversity, highs and lows, team meetings. Can the player help you win? Now, not above all. We've talked about Trevor Bauer. There's examples of players that are off limits. Okay. There's lines you're not crossing. Bringing a beer into a dugout is not some line that he has crossed that you can't come back from, in my opinion. If you deem that he can help you, power, performance, winning culture. He's played a lot of postseason games in his career. He hasn't always hit in the postseason, but at times he has. I just think it's a simple equation. Is he affordable and can he help you? And does he fill a need? And if you check those boxes and that's Nick Castellanos, then I don't care if he chastised Rob Thompson last year. Is it overly relevant? It's a long year, guys. They spent 7 months together. Things are going to happen. It means he can't help you win a year later. I don't see it as an issue. I really don't.
The beer in the dugout thing struck me as something that a guy does when you're trying to get fired.
Yep.
That would be like if I just, cracked open a beer when I walked in here at 10 in the morning. And then when, Mary and Mike Usher took it away from me, like, hey, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of those things where you could have just drank it in the clubhouse.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you're already taken out of the game. So I get, you drinking the beer isn't going to have any effect on, that game and what's going on. But yeah, if you wanted a beer that bad, you could have just went and drank it in the clubhouse where there's no TV cameras to watch you drink it.
Yeah.
Or you could have just put it in a red Solo cup and everyone would have thought you're drinking Gatorade like Bob Uecker did for 3 decades where he was drinking his Miller Lights out of his little Dixie cups.
No, you're right. It's you're asking for it when you go that far. And I think the full article would listen. Does it raise some questions about his relationships with the Phillies players and organization? Yeah. I mean, there's flags. I'm just not telling you they're fully red flags. I mean, this is a guy that has spent a lot of time in the major leagues. And I'll tell you why, because he's produced. And the reason he's not going to be in the major leagues one day is less about the beer in the dugout and more about his numbers. That's what I'm telling you. I mean, this guy's been up since 2013 and he's had some massive years. Now, would one of my concerns be he's on the downside? Yeah, but it's a flyer deal. If it didn't work out, you are not tied to him. If it didn't work out for 2 reasons, he didn't perform or if he didn't work with your team, you can part ways. Assuming he's making $1 or $2 or $3 million on his next deal, what's the risk reward? The risk is it doesn't work out, but it's only a couple of $1 million. The reward is, can he return to form? And I'm not saying, hey, can you be the player you were in 2019? Okay, 2019 is forever ago. He's not going to have a 1,000 OPS. He had a 1,000 OPS in 51 games after the deadline with the Cubs. Yeah, he's not going to be that player. Sorry, ship sailed. But last year, he was a 694 OPS guy. Can he be more like the guy he was 2 years before, 788? That's a big difference. If he can get on base, hit for power, and again, not 50 home runs, but 25, right? And if he can hit 265, not 245, maybe it's wishful. Maybe it's wishful. But my point is, I'm not asking for him to be 27-year-old Nick Castellanos. I'm just looking for a little more out of a guy that clearly was not fully in, okay, in 2025.
They hit so few home runs. If he hit 25, it would feel like he hit 50 anyways.
Right.
So.
I mean, that's like statue. Like you're building things for it. Listen, we got so enamored last year. Let me pull up Gavin Sheets' numbers from last year. So, I mean, people were telling us how great of a year it was for Gavin Sheets, right? He hit 252 with 19 home runs. How does that compare to Nick Castellanos last year? He hit 250 with 17 home runs. My point is, if you are enamored with Gavin Sheets, you're going to love Nick Castellanos, or you'll have a similar feeling potentially about Nick Castellanos. And they could use a power hitting DH in their lineup. They just could. So, and again, it's like, would I prefer to have him 6 years ago? Yeah, but I'd also love to have him on a $1 or $2 million deal, and he can sign with any club right now for the league minimum, like the league minimum. Maybe he gets more than that. I don't know, because he still owed the Phillies money, so he's owed $20 million. He was released, so he doesn't need anything beyond the minimum.
So basically, what you're telling me is, by the time we come in tomorrow, he'll be a Dodger,
potentially. Unfortunately. So, like, I'm just at MLB trade rumors right now, and yeah, that's correct. Like, the Phillies are on the hook for the rest of the deal, minus the prorated portion of the league minimum paid to him. So think about that. There are no negotiating with clubs. He's getting $20 million whole regardless, because he could get $8 million from the Cubs, but he still then gets 12 from the Phillies, or he could get 800,000 from the Padres. Then he gets 19.2 from the Phillies. The number's the number. It's automatically $20 million. Just who's paying him? Is it the Phillies for some? Is it the Padres for some? Is it the Cubs for some? He's getting a minimum deal. I can't pick up the phone quick enough. And I see some of the texts, hard pass, clubhouse cancer. In the chat, hard pass, clubhouse cancer. I got to look at it the other way. I don't have any money to spend, so I'm not going to get the perfect player. I need to be able to overlook certain things. I'll look the other way for a guy that's going to hit 20 plus home runs for me next year for no money. I will look the other way for a guy that's going to do that. You know, the rest of the team will point Nick Castellanos the way he needs to be pointed. That's on the team. That's on the clubhouse. That's on Craig Stammen. You know, that's how I look at it with a guy that, again, I think can help you. So if he can help you, you know, that's the only question for me. Can he help you or not? And if you can, then pick up that phone and call. All right. Call right now if you want Aztec tickets for Tuesday night against Grand Canyon. A great giveaway. 2 free tickets to see San Diego State and Grand Canyon at Viejas Arena. Caller 5. You have 2 free tickets. Call 877-767-4760 right now. Tuesday night back at Viejas Arena. 877-767-4760. Check goaztecs.com for tickets for this weekend and for Tuesday's game against Grand Canyon. Caller 5, you are going. We'll give away Charlie Poot tickets in the 4 o'clock hour. Kevin Acey will join us live at 5 p.m. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Mattress Firm. In baseball news, the Dodgers and third baseman Max Muncy agreed to a 1-year extension worth $10 million today. They also re-signed Kike Hernandez to a 1-year, $4.5 million deal. And some breaking news coming out of college football. Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss has been granted an extra year of eligibility by a state court judge who issued an injunction that paves the way for him to be eligible now in 2026. Tonight at 6:00, we got the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show. John talks with the head coach about Saturday's upcoming game against Nevada and more. And following the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show, we've got Lakers basketball when the team takes on the Mavericks. Score major deals on top brands at Mattress Firm's President's Day sale. Find your dream mattress today. Their sleep experts are highly trained to find the right one to fit your unique needs. They make sleep easy.
All right, Kevin Acee is on the show in 1 hour. He'll join us live from Peoria. Had a chance to be a part of a media scrum today with AJ Preller. We'll bring back that audio for you and react to it. Actually, why don't we do that, Brent? In general, we'll get to the Rapid 415. I want to react to what AJ Preller had to say earlier today. There's no bigger story so far out of camp than what Preller said about his own future. I mean, yeah, they got to complete their roster, but AJ Preller controls the direction of the team moving forward. So he's only under contract through 2026. They haven't come to terms on an extension for whatever reason. Take a listen to this back and forth. It's about 3 minutes. Kevin Acee's in there, Marty Caswell, and others. AJ Preller with the media.
How come you don't have a contract extension?
I mean, again, continue to talk to Jon, and I think again, it's something that like anything, it's like when the time's right, the moment's right. Hoping to line up on something, hoping to have something here that that can focus can be back on the field and go from there. But we'll see where it goes in the next couple of days.
How important is it to you? That you, being that your primary thing is building a team and all that. How important is it to you that this gets done, gets out of the way?
I mean, again, to me, like either way, I mean, like ultimately, I'm under contract, so it's I think it's all about putting a team on the field that's going to win, and there's still a lot of work to do in terms of continuing to round out the roster. So that continues to be the focus. Like I've said before, I love being here, love San Diego, feel good about the work we've done as a group. Again, it's something that we still have some unfinished business. So that's really the motivation for for the city of San Diego to go out and win and be a part of it, and hopefully we can do that.
With the contract, how important or is it important that it be settled by opening day? So it's not you're not necessarily going into the season with it being your last one under contract. Does that matter?
Yeah, again, I'm not setting any kind of deadline or anything like that. I mean, I think to me it's always open just to having conversation and trying to see if we can work something out. But I think ultimately, my focus it's on the team and the field and spring training getting started. That won't change, and I don't see us setting any kind of deadline or anything like that.
You said at FanFest you were expecting something to get done. There's since been some pretty public developments with ownership, the sale process, or at least the developments going public. Would you say you're still expecting something to get done?
Yeah, no, I don't think anything's changed from that standpoint. I think the same sentiments that myself and I know the conversations I have with Jon. I think I think the same sentiments we've had really throughout the whole off season. I think that hasn't changed at all. Despite not having a deal, I feel like the wanting to be here. I think the intent from the organization for me to be here. I feel like that's all the same, and I think hopefully we can line up on something.
Is there any apprehension on your part, considering you don't know who the next owner is going to be? Is there any merit in waiting to find out who the next guy or woman may be?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think again, I think that's definitely been an element that's a little bit different. Obviously, when you have your direct boss is somebody that is going to be here, so that's probably something for myself that's at least it's kind of just a different element that's been added to the whole conversation. I don't think that really is going to impact anything, though. I think from the beginning, in terms of getting a deal done, I think like it's been, again, it's been pretty consistent, the conversation. And, ultimately I think we're either going to do it or not. I don't think it's going to be, hey, we may have a new owner here at some point in time and, in the next few weeks, months, et cetera. So that's what's holding this up like that. I don't feel that at all, honestly.
Ultimately, we're going to do it or not. AJ Preller earlier today with the San Diego media. I honestly appreciate I don't know if it's candidness or not. He didn't say anything, but I heard things because he was asked about it 5 times. It's very hard to say nothing when you're asked the same question or a variation of a question 5 times. Like, that is a skill. I'm telling you right now, as someone that talks for a living, that is a flat out unbelievable skill. It's like if Brent every day on the Wrap asked me and Jim back in the day 4 questions and we never offered our opinion on it. Like, what would be the purpose of doing that? It's not easy to do. Hey, who do you think is going to win the NBA All-Star game? Well, it's less about who's going to win the game. It's more about the world versus team. Who even cares at that point? So Preller's amazing at that, where it's like a lot of beating around the bush. And I don't even know what he's saying half the time. But because he was asked the question in some form or fashion 5 times, he had to kind of, I don't know if let his guard down is the right term, but there was a little bit of realness that came through, including that whether we do a deal or not, that puts me in his headspace. His headspace is, I really believe this after listening to that again, this is not about whether the next owner is Dan Friedkin or Joe Lacob. This is more about, am I being given a fair deal or not, in my estimation? Right? That's what I believe this to be. I truly believe it. At the end of the day, we all feel this way in some way of life, whether it's professionally, personally. You want to be treated fairly. A lot of things boil down to that. Now, we're not always treated fairly, but a lot of things boil down to, well, hold on. Why are you doing that for this individual, but not for this? Or why is it at that place of employment this occurs, but it doesn't here? Or why is it mom does this for him, but not for her? Like, at the end of the day, a lot of it boils down to you just want to be treated fairly or feel like, you've got, like your needs are being met. So I just can't for the life of me figure out why the 2 sides couldn't come to some type of resolution if you just want to be treated fairly. Is he asking for so much? Is he going too far based on what he has done in his role? Is he saying, hey, I'm under contract for 1 year. I want a 6-year extension and I want to be the highest paid general manager in the sport? Then okay. Then I could see the organization taking that pause and taking it in. But is he asking that? When you hear that man speak, does that sound like someone that went to the organization, Brett, and says, I need 6 years. I need X per year. Take it or leave it. And I'm going to report to nobody but myself. Like, I'm going to change the organizational structure. I mean, it's hard to know what's going on behind the scenes, but I think he wants it to be more, I want to be treated fairly as opposed to, I want to make all the rules and like, come hell or high water, this is the deal you're going to make. And if not, I'm going to walk.
In a certain way, he kind of came off like, if you're trying to have a conversation with like your nonchalant teenage like son or daughter, to where it's just like, so what if the contract doesn't get done? Whatever. If it gets done, it gets done. I'm not overly worried about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of the way he came off about it, to where it's like, he's not worried about it. Like, he's almost like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's no big deal. It's like he knows that, if they don't re-sign me, we can't get it worked out here. It's not like there's not going to be 6 other clubs that are going to be, blowing up my phone within 12 hours of me getting, let go or not re-signing.
It's funny. I agree. I didn't necessarily think of it that way. Go back a couple years, Brett, when Manny Machado got into spring training, was like, I don't have a contract beyond this year. Or, and they gave all their money to Xander. I don't know exactly what he said, but he made it out to be a pretty significant deal. Like, hey, my future is hanging in the balance. Let's get this thing done. He was coming off a very good year, like a top 3 MVP year. And people are like, oh my gosh, Could Manny Machado walk? Could the face of your franchise really walk as like a 30-year-old? And they got something done. Peter Seidler stepped in. It got done very quickly. AJ Preller's not putting the organization in that same spot. He's certainly not being like, take it or leave it with the media. He's not saying like this either gets resolved or we're going to have a problem on our hands. He's not saying that. But I do wonder now that he is speaking and being asked about it, and it's going to be with regularity throughout spring training. Does that then make the organization, I don't even, does the organization now feel a need to act because it's more topical? It's front of mind. It's an important part of the overall equation for the team.
I think if AJ paints a picture of, look, I told him I want to stay here, but they haven't put any paperwork in front of my face yet to sign and anything else. So, I did my part, we're waiting on them. Then I could see them maybe wanting to shift it because it's eventually over time with that narrative, it's going to come out like they're going to seem like the for lack of a better term, they're going to seem like the bad guys because it's going to be, well, okay, he said he's ready. Why haven't you guys given him a contract yet? Or why haven't you given him something to sign? You're just, kind of leaving him hanging out there. It's like you don't really want him back.
Like, what are they talking about? AJ Preller is now on the record at least 4 times this often. Like, think about this. General manager meetings, November. Winter meetings, December. Fan Fest 2 weeks ago. Spring training today. In 4 different periods of time, all 3 or 4 weeks between speaking, they've been communicating and having meetings. What could they possibly still be talking about that could be left unresolved?
Yeah, and we've kind of been joking about AJ being like, hey, I'm just been really busy, and it's like, yeah, AJ probably has been really busy. I don't doubt that. But who hasn't been really busy or even a little busy? John Seidler. He's had plenty of time that they could have got this worked out, but he's still the what's that movie where the guy just kind of hides up in his house as a hermit and no one ever sees him and he never comes out, and it's just like, he's there but he never talks. I still am kind of under the opinion that he's going to come in, take ownership of the team, sell the team, and we're never even going to hear a peep out of his mouth.
Well, it's like who was the chairman before him that I don't even remember his name anymore? Eric Katsenda.
Yeah.
We don't even remember. I mean, I could pass by Eric Katsenda at 7-Eleven. I would not know it's him. I mean, that's how rarely we saw him. That's not Eric Katsenda's fault. And this isn't necessarily John. Are you talking about Inspector Gadget?
No.
Was that the dude with the cat or whatever? But you never saw him.
Oh, that was Dr. Claw. That was the bad guy.
Yeah,
no, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, no,
like just like somebody that you like never hear from, but they're like seemingly in charge. But
I was thinking more like Man in the Iron Mask or like a Quasimodo thing. But your analogy works too.
But anyway, it's like, what are they doing in sports? Things get done so quickly. They get done overnight. Like a head coach leaves in college football and the team that he left makes a hire within 24 hours sometimes. How could you possibly come to terms and write in contract language and like do all of the work that is necessary to do something like that? Yet your general manager is just the contract status has been in limbo for 4 months. It's just a lot of it needs an explanation, and Kevin Acee will hopefully try to provide us with one when he joins us live at 5 p.m. We'll do the wrap. On the other side, we've got Charlie Puth tickets to give away. Again, Kevin Acee joins us live at 5 p.m. Brian Dutcher. The Brian Dutcher Show is coming up at 6. If you've got a question, 70470. Start it with the word team. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760. We've got Charlie Poot tickets to give away, and we'll do that this hour. Kevin Acey will join us live from spring training, Peoria, Arizona, coming up at 5 p.m. And right now, why don't we get to this?
It's time for the wrap. Presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
Should the Padres sign Nick Castellanos?
All right, so we've hit on this over the last 2 days. I say why not? Jon Heyman reporting this afternoon, there's a ton of interest in Castellanos. Why wouldn't there be? He could be signed for the minimum with high upside. So, yes, they should. I don't know if it'll be easy or not because there'll be a number of teams in on him. But, yes, I mean, they should absolutely have an interest in signing Nick Castellanos. If it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done. But don't have it not get done because you don't show interest. So, yes, they should have interest in him. He's been released again by the Phillies as of this morning. And he's still owed $20 million for this year. So, yeah, I think they should have interest. Yes, I read the article. Yeah, are there some concerns in there based on his, some of the decisions he made last year, the way he was with Rob Thompson, bringing beer into the dugout during a game? Okay, yes, there's some baggage in there. Well, that's what you get for a player that's going to make, $800K next year on the major league minimum. So, yeah, I think the Padres should be interested. Next question.
Who's going to win the NBA All-Star game?
So remind me, Brent, there's a world team, there's a U.S. team 1 and a U.S. team 2, but they're not calling them 1 and 2. It's Stars and Stripes, I think.
Yes.
Is one supposed to be better than the other, or they're supposed to be evenly distributed teams?
I think one of them is better. I don't have them up yet. I think the world's going to.
Well, I was about to say that. Forget about if I'm splitting the U.S. team and going up against one world team. The world's pretty good at basketball. Like there's a lot of very good international players, right? Luka, Wemby. So I would take the best of the world over a split squad U.S. game, like if this was spring training. So I'll take the world team. Now, here's what I don't know, though, is what are even the rules? And, like, how long are the games? And that I don't know. But I think if I had to choose a side between a split U.S. team or a full world team, I'll take the full world team over the split U.S. side. And I'd be actually probably surprised if the world team didn't win against these like half U.S. teams.
I think they could combine the two U.S. teams and they still would beat the world. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. Next question.
Who's going to win the slam dunk contest? All
right. So I bring this up because we do have an Aztec in here, Keyshawn Johnson. This was announced a few days ago, maybe even more than that now, 5 or 6 days ago. Keyshawn Johnson. Now, is he under the radar as an NBA player? Yeah. He's with the Heat. He's a great story.
Everyone in the slam dunk contest
is under the radar. I mean, really over the last decade. Now, Keyshawn Johnson, 4 years here, 1 year at Arizona, and has gotten time in the NBA now in his second year with the Miami Heat. Just Google Keyshawn Johnson dunks. He is a ferocious dunker. In fact, he's my favorite. I think he will win it. His dunks are ridiculous. He's acrobatic. He has a little bit of both like power and like athleticism, or like I don't even know what the right words are to say about the way he dunks, but he's got a little bit of everything in his dunking game, and that's probably why he's made the slam dunk contest. But I'll go with, I think it would be pretty cool. Now again, he spent his final year at Arizona, but 4 years at San Diego State, played for a national championship game with San Diego State back in 2023. So I'll certainly be rooting for Keyshawn. Is that Friday night or Saturday, Brian?
Saturday.
Okay, so those All-Star festivities are Saturday.
Friday is the Stupid Rising Stars Challenge and the quote celebrity, which is nowadays just YouTube celebrity game.
And then the game itself is Sunday.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, the slam dunk 3-point contest. Again, some of it, as it lost its luster, of course it has. You used to have Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. So, of course, it has lost some of its luster. I don't know what to do about it. I really don't. But I would be watching because of Keyshawn Johnson. Next question.
I can't believe we waited this long.
I know.
What did you think of the Aztecs football schedule?
You know what? I was excited to see this eventually released because we spent a lot of time on it yesterday. It is entirely unique to FBS football because the Aztecs next year have a game that's technically a flex game. That won't be determined until something like 6 days out, their final regular season game. and it will be based on league standings and maybe trying to put a Pac-12 team in the best position to get to a college football playoff as the group of 6 representative. I think it's a very challenging schedule, and I like the schedule. Like non-conference, you're playing in LA against UCLA at presumably the Rose Bowl. I don't even know if that's been determined. Is there like fighting a court case to get out of the Rose Bowl and get to SoFi? I think it's going to be in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl, and I'm all for that. I think it's a much better college football venue. So you've got UCLA. You have a home game against James Madison, which I think is cool. They were in the playoff last year. And then you get to the conference. How about this, Brent? The first Texas State Pac-12 football game, because Texas State was the last team in, is here at Snapdragon against the Aztecs. So the first conference game for San Diego State ever in the Pac-12 is against Texas State. They then go to Corvallis to face Oregon State. They play for the oil can against Fresno on October 17th. They go to Colorado State. They host Washington State. They host Utah State. And then they finish on the road at Boise State and then on the road in this flex game. They know they'll be on the road. They don't know who they're going to play. So here's the thing. Their bye doesn't come until after week 10. That I don't like. That's way too late. There's only one bye next year. It's based on the calendar. This year there were 2. The last 2 years there were 2. It's always based on the calendar. And next year you only have 1. It's like how many weekends fall in a certain like 14-week period of time or something. I don't get it. But they only have 1 bye week, and it's not until after the October 31st game. I'd much prefer that was like early to mid-October. That to me seems way too late. But 6 of the first 10 games are at home. They close road. But 6 of 10 at home, and 1 of your road, you're just driving to Los Angeles. So you're only on a plane 3 times in your first 10 games of the year, which to me isn't overly strenuous. Like and where are you going? You're going to Toledo. That's far. That's out of conference. You're going to Oregon State, not far. You're going to CSU and Fort Collins, relatively far. But anyway, it's a long way of saying, I think San Diego State hopefully will be positioned to have a year like they did last year, which is put yourself in a position to get to a conference title game, which is where they were last year before they lost in double overtime to New Mexico. They got to go to Boise. That'll be interesting. Obviously, beat Boise here last year. But I like the schedule. I do. And we can talk more about it, in fact, on the other side. We're also giving away Charlie Puth tickets coming up. That's April 22nd at VA House Arena. And Kevin Acey will join us live at 5 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Mattress Firm. The Dodgers and third baseman Max Muncy agreed to a 1-year contract extension worth $10 million guaranteed. The team also re-signed Kike Hernandez to a 1-year deal worth $4.5 million. In college football news, Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss was granted an extra year of eligibility by a state court judge who issued an injunction that will pave the way for Chambliss to be eligible in 2026. Tonight, it's the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show at 6:00. John and the head coach will preview Saturday's upcoming game against Nevada and more. And following the Coaches Show, we've got Lakers basketball when the team takes on Dallas. Score major deals on top brands at Mattress Firm's President's Day sale. Find your dream mattress today. Their sleep experts are highly trained to help find the right fit to your unique needs. They make sleep easy.
All right, we'll give away Charlie Puth tickets this hour. Kevin Acey will join us live from Peoria coming up at 5 p.m. So Jeff Passan wrote an article. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
I saw it.
You see this article. It's about the way owners feel about the game heading into 2026 with the potential lockout looming, and all the owners want a salary cap. Because of the cap, the valuations of the franchises go up, and the players are mad because they think they're going to be locked out and they might not be getting paid, and all the back and forth, right? But the crux of it, what do you have?
I was going to say there's a big shift from the article he did about how Ohtani signing the Dodgers deal was great for baseball.
Great for baseball. Although the funny thing is, it's not that much of it is a shift from that. But like even in the tweet he wrote to link to the article, like I have a problem with the way he frames this. He says this: fans are angry at growing payroll disparity, at a Dodgers team that cracked the system, at others unwilling to do the same, and particularly at the threat of no baseball in 2027. Like, Jeff, you're on the wrong path. That the Dodgers didn't crack the system. They didn't crack the system. They have unfair advantages. I'm sorry to say it that bluntly for Dodger fans that are listening, and you are. I know there's a lot of Dodger fans in San Diego County, Orange County, Southern California that listen. They didn't crack the system. The system favors them. They have $400 million in annual TV revenue. The Padres have nothing. They have billions of dollars. I don't know the exact number. Their sponsorship revenue is a record amount. Again, a lot of it is tied to their Japanese revenue that comes in, right, with all their Japanese stars, Yamamoto, Ohtani, and Sasaki. Like, yeah, it's not to discredit them as an organization. That is not my point. That's not my point. Do I think they're well run? I do. Do I think some of the moves they've made have been well orchestrated, even if they've cost a lot of money? Absolutely. Do I think they have a good farm system? Yes. Do I think they're a good team? Absolutely. But I do not think they crack the system. I think that they've taken advantage of the system. If anything, the system needs to be like we need to wrap our arms around the system. We need a system. What is the system? Now, I'm not the one that tells you Kyle Tucker is the reason why we need a salary cap. That's not the path I need to go down. But I do think the deferrals have gotten out of hand. I do think the spending disparity is a problem in general for the sport. And I do not think that the Dodgers crack the system. I think the Dodgers have advantages that the other clubs don't have, by and large.
I don't know. I kind of take issue with his, what do you say? How he phrased,
others unwilling to do the same?
Yeah, because I think that's BS. Because I think the majority of the teams in the league, if they would try something similar, Manfred would be like, what do you think you're doing? It's like, no, you
remember, are the Padres bad for baseball? They're spending. It's not sustainable.
You know, if Pittsburgh or Washington tried that, they'd be like, what are you guys doing?
Yes.
Come on. They wouldn't be going, oh, good job, guys. We applaud you for working the system. You're just so smart. And no, they're just like, no, you can't do that.
I'm going to make a segue. Is the luge dude's real name Dan Barefoot? The guy's, his name is Dan Barefoot. That's on the screen right now. To do a skeleton or illusion. I don't even think he's wearing shoes. But anyway, back to it.
They have to wear shoes. They can't run on the
I don't even know what they're doing. But back to it. Like, When the Padres tried to spend, thank you for going down that path, Brian. When the Padres spent like they'd never spent before and rivaled the spending of teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Mets, we were told it's not sustainable, it's bad for the game. When the Dodgers signed Shohei Ohtani to the richest deal in baseball history and then gave him a check for $2 million a year and deferred everything else, we were told it was great for the game. Look at what this is going to mean for Los Angeles baseball. Look at what this is going to mean for Ohtani. Like, look at this. This is unbelievable. So, yeah, you can't have it both ways. You can't tell me that the Dodgers have cracked the system and others are unwilling to do the same. That is so unfair to say. That's like saying, it's like the difference between like rich and poor. Like, it's like
you're
it's like
poor because you didn't try hard enough.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And that is such a bogus claim that has been debunked a million times. That like inherently, if you don't have the same amount of money as someone that's rich, it's on you. Because they outworked you. That's bogus and that's BS. And that's basically the path he's going down. Guess what? Milwaukee, Wisconsin's never going to be Los Angeles, California. They don't want it to be. They don't want it to be. And by the way, there's pros in LA and there's pros in Milwaukee. And there's cons in Milwaukee and there's cons in LA. And you could basically say that everywhere. But to say that the Dodgers are winning because they care and the others don't is so bogus. It is so bogus. I never have bought that. I'm not saying that all 30 teams are as empowered as the other. I'm not saying all 30 are 1,000% gung-ho above all else. But I cannot be convinced that the Padres haven't tried to win at a high level, yet don't have the same advantages that a club like the Dodgers or even the Mets. Now, the Mets haven't capitalized the way the Dodgers have, even though they've attempted via spending. I'm not telling you spending is the only factor at play. I'm not telling you that spending is the only factor at play, but it helps. So, again, there's a long article in here, and I'm sure some of it is valid and legitimate, what he's saying. But the premise is flawed. The premise that the Dodgers crack the system and the others aren't trying to do the same is so absurd. To think that you would buy a baseball team for $1 billion and then just sit on your hands and not try to win. And that's the premise of the other 20-something clubs other than LA is so insane. I'm shocked that Jeff Passan would go down that route. I really am shocked he would. That's such a fake narrative.
Well, and with his tone too, it almost makes it sound like, and I'm going to say when the lockout happens next year that, it's everyone else's fault. The Dodgers are trying to save baseball and, it was just everyone else's fault because they just weren't as smart as the Dodgers. And, so everyone don't get mad at the Dodgers because it's not their fault. It's your guys' fault.
Man, that's such a good point. It's like, I see on social media, it's like the Brewers trade Freddie Peralta and then Dodger fans, see, they're not trying to win. No, actually they're sustaining winning because their formula ain't yours. Theirs is about sustainability that they can maintain without absurd levels of spending, the advantage that you enjoy and they don't.
Yeah, and like the very next day after they all were like, see, the Brewers aren't trying to win because they traded Peralta. What happened? They were named the number one farm system in all of baseball.
Which will help them win in the future.
Yes, and that's why they can trade Freddie Peralta and still go, we're still trying to win. We're not, tanking or anything.
Yeah, it kind of like, listen, is the sport perfect? Absolutely not. Are there changes that are probably necessary? Yes, and I probably could say that with the NFL and the NBA, NHL if I cared to say it. But like, listen, it makes sense that the two sides are going to be at odds at the end of this CBA. It really does. But to say that, to say that the other clubs need to catch up with the way the Dodgers are doing things, to me is unfair. And I also don't think, by the way, I don't think they cracked some code. Like, I think they won the last two World Series, and I don't think they did it by sweeping through everyone and outscoring people 20-0. They trailed the Padres. I mean, it's a broken record. I get it. And it doesn't mean anything. I understand that as well. But they trailed the Padres at Petco 2-1. To their credit, won the next two games. Did they do it because of their spending prowess? No, they just outplayed the Padres. They trailed the Blue Jays 3-2. They trailed the Blue Jays in the 9th inning of Game 7 on the road. So
They literally won by an inch.
yeah, exactly. And it counts. I'm not discrediting the World Series. I'm not. It's easy to discredit 2020. Even that, whatever. Everyone played, they won it. I'm fine with it. I don't care. But like they crack the code. Okay. I mean, they've outspent. If that's what you mean by cracking the code, then yes, you're right. They've outspent everyone else. And I would say that a reason that, a stoppage may be in order is the disparity is getting too wide, probably. Like they can have advantages, but they can't have that type of advantage for forever moving forward. I don't know if a cap is the right answer or not. I don't think we're going to get a cap, would be my guess, but we'll see, I guess.
We'll never get a cap. The cat's already out of the bag on that one. It's never going to happen. They would have had to do that a long time ago. They waited too long, and the Major League Baseball Players Union is like the strongest union in all of sports. So there is no way in hell that is going to happen.
I agree. And that's why they have all these like luxury tax thresholds. Like if you spend this much, there's a penalty. But they've never said you can't go over a number. And like I always say, if you put a cap in tomorrow, are you telling the Dodgers they have to get rid of their players because they're over the cap? No.
That's why I think they're more going to propose some sort of cap on the deferred spending. Because I think for the most part, that's what everyone's so mad about. If the Dodgers were just going out and just straight up signing all these people for these huge deals, I don't think anyone would really care. They'd say the same thing they said about the Yankees in the 90s and the 2000s. But then that would be it. It wouldn't be anything about them ruining anything. To be, they got more money than everyone, so they bought their team. But it's just the fact that one of the teams that has the most money in the league just gets to put everything on credit.
Yeah.
And it's like nobody else gets to do that. But, you think that maybe the teams that, don't have as much money would get to put some stuff on credit. But no, the team that doesn't necessarily need to gets to put everything on credit.
All right, let's give away these Charlie Puth tickets coming up next. Plus, let's have Kevin AC join us live at 5 p.m. with much more on labor strife, but what AJ Preller had to say today with the media as well about his contract status moving forward. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, Kevin Acey is going to join us live coming up at 5. We've got these Charlie Puth tickets, VA House Arena, to give away in the next 10 minutes. This will be Charlie Puth performing at VA House Arena on April 22nd, just over 2 months from now. So we'll let you know how to win those tickets. So again, Kevin will join us at 5. If you missed Dave Velasquez, you'll hear our conversation with the Aztec assistant coming up at 5:30. And again, if you got a question for Dutch, he'll join us live at 6 p.m., the Brian Dutcher Show. You can text us 70470, start it with the word team. Again, 70470, start it with the word team. Now, Brent and I, to some extent, have been enamored watching daily coverage of the Winter Olympics from Milan. I give NBC a lot of credit because it is a very good viewing experience, I would say. None better, arguably, than luge, skeleton, and bobsled, because they've got these drones flying 100 miles an hour down the track, following these racers, or they, whatever they
Sliders,
are, these sliders. And it's really good theater. And you're always left to ask yourself this question, which is like, could I do that? Not be the drone, but could I jump onto this sled and twist and turn and contort my body and get down this track without dying? And I think the answer is probably no. Right? Like, I think I'd be dead.
Yeah, probably.
Or seriously hurt, potentially.
I joked yesterday during one of the commercial breaks that like the real MVP of the Olympics this year is the drone, because the drone footage of them literally chasing the bobsleds and the luge people down the ice, and when the snowboard was doing their thing, they were going up in the air, so you can kind of feel like the height and the speed and everything of what they're doing. And all the drone shots have been my favorite part of the Olympics by far this year, is just because all the shots that they used to do of just the standing camera of, and there goes luge, and it goes by, and then there's the other one. Yeah. It's like, it's so much cooler when they are literally chasing the guy with a drone behind him going like 70 miles per hour. And it's just awesome. Yeah.
The Winter Olympics are a little bit like being a fish out of water, because I see none of this ever. I consume none of this in any capacity. Like with these other sports, we're watching them every day. I watch baseball, I watch basketball, I watch football. And then all of a sudden, thrust onto your television is figure skating or luge or skeleton or speed skating.
Well, it's because all the Winter Olympic sports require something. The Summer Olympic ones, okay, you need a track or you need, a basketball court. The Winter Olympics, you need a bobsled. You need a bobsled track. You need skis, you need a ski jump. Yeah. You need, it's
not soccer.
It's kind of like people's complaint about like golf, about how it's hard for like kids to get into golf because you can't. Yeah, because you have to buy clubs and it's not like as accessible to everybody.
Yeah, where soccer is like, I need a ball.
Yeah, soccer you don't need it. You ball and you only need a field. Just give me the ball and we're good to go.
That's probably why it's the world's game. I mean, everyone can play soccer. But anywhere.
Winter Olympics, it's just like everything is set up that you need something in order to compete in the sport.
Right. And I look at like where the Olympians are from, specifically in the US, and this should come as no surprise, like Jackson Hole, Park City, Salt Lake,
Steamboat,
Denver. Like they're not out of Miami by and large. They're not out of LA or San Diego. But I'm sure there's examples. Don't quote me on it. I know there's examples. Maybe hometown is LA, but moved to Denver to pursue something. But it's been an enjoyable. Where I think NBC was able to hit this massive home run is you went from Super Bowl into this. So you basically forced fed people into it, where other people, like other years without NBC having the Super Bowl, maybe you wouldn't have been like thrust into it like this. But I've just had it on basically since the Super Bowl, and I'm probably not going to change it. I mean, you got, NBA All-Star Game is actually also on NBC.
I'm kind of worried that the NBA All-Star Game is going to get a deceptive ratings jump.
Yeah, I'm sure it will because
Olympics
of this.
As a lead-in.
Yeah, probably.
And the NBA, instead of using rational thought and going, I think we just got this extra 10 million viewership bump because of the Olympics.
We figured it out.
Hey, we've cracked the code. We're like the Dodgers.
Yeah, we've cracked the code.
Now we've perfected the All-Star game format, so we're going to do this again next year. To where I really hope they don't do that.
It's possible. Does it feel like, by the way, that the NBA All-Star game is in LA every third year?
Kind of, but that's what happens when you have multiple teams in one town.
They do it too.
They could technically go, the Lakers are hosting the
Yeah.
All-Star game, and it's in a different arena this time, so it's not like they're going back to Staples.
Like, do you know where it is next year?
Chicago, isn't it?
Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be in Phoenix, and I don't know if they've announced 2028 or not, but it's in Phoenix. But I just feel like the All-Star game is always in LA for some reason. I know I'm dead wrong on that. I just feel like it's like it's in New York, it's in LA. It's in New York, it's in LA.
Well, and you think they would just move it around everywhere, because that's the one advantage that like the NBA All-Star game has over like, the Super Bowl. They want to have it in, you're going to either have the Super Bowl in a warm weather location, so it's nice weather, or you're just going to put the game in a dome. There's no in between, except for that one year when they're like, hey, let's try it New York in February. And they're like, yeah, we're not doing that again.
Right.
Yeah, the NBA, you don't have to worry about that because you play indoors. So who cares if, it's February in Minnesota? You don't play outside. Who cares? You're going to be in the warm inside. So you would think every team should get to host the All-Star game at some point.
Yeah,
you would think.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yet I'm looking here at Wikipedia, and Los Angeles has hosted 4 All-Star games since 2004. So 4 of the last 22 is a lot. That means there's teams that haven't hosted.
Oh no, there's totally teams that haven't hosted because they don't go all the way around. Because like Milwaukee, I don't think they've ever hosted.
No, Milwaukee's not on the list.
I don't think
last year was Indy. No. Yeah, but last year was San Francisco. They're going San Francisco, LA, Phoenix, 3 straight years, which is interesting to me. But anyway, call right now if you want Charlie Puth tickets. A long way of saying call right now if you want Charlie Puth tickets. April 22nd at Viejas Arena. Caller 6. They are yours. 2 free tickets. 877-767-4760. He just performed the national anthem at the Super Bowl. You can see him live April 22nd at Viejas. 877-767-4760. Be caller 6 right now, and you have 2 free tickets. Again, 877-767-4760. Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, joins us live from Peoria. Coming up next on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by the San Diego Zoo. The Dodgers and third baseman Max Muncy agreed to a 1-year extension worth $10 million guaranteed today. The team also re-signed Kiki Hernandez to a 1-year deal worth $4.5 million. In college football news, Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss was granted an extra year of eligibility by a state court judge who issued an injunction that will pave the way for Chambliss to be eligible for the 2026 season. Tonight at 6:00, it's the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show. John talks with the Aztecs head coach about this Saturday's upcoming game against Nevada and more. And following the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show, we've got Lakers basketball when the team takes on Dallas. All February guests 65 and older enter free at San Diego Zoo Safari Park. Enjoy the sights on the Africa Tram. Come face to face with tigers. Enjoy refreshments at the Kijami Overlook. There's something for everyone. Guests must present their valid photo ID at any Safari Park ticket window to gain free admission, and parking is not included.
All right, final hour here on San Diego Sports 760 before the Brian Dutcher Show. Always great to connect with our Padres insider Kevin Acee, back with us in 2026, joining us live from Peoria, where spring training is underway. And Kevin, appreciate you taking time. I liked your direct question to AJ about his contract status, which is like, why have you not had an extension as of yet? So I guess I would just ask this. Are we buying what he is saying? Because he kind of spoke at length on it. There were 4, 5, 6 questions about it. I don't even know what he's saying, but are we buying why this is not resolved as of yet?
First off, that's pretty standard for a on the record, gathering with Preller, where there's multiple people, where there's cameras, where he knows it's going to be captured. You walk away going, so what is it he said?
Yeah.
But look, I'm just putting the finishing touches on kind of an analysis of the situation, and that, yes, it's like, stop me if you've heard this before. They're close, or it'll happen soon. Look, I think more than ever, that's the indication that I'm getting, that like, we have every reason. I'm not saying we don't. We have every reason to have some curiosity over this, even to be asking the questions we're asking. But it's kind of, from my understanding, much ado about nothing, which is what a lot of these things do turn out to be. Like, we all have our own timeline. We all could come up with reasons, let's just assume that that what we're saying is that AJ Preller should be extended. And I can make that argument for sure. But we think, why isn't it done then? And look, the Padres have been expressing that it would get done. So what the heck? Well, the reality is, and Preller shouldered some of the, if you want to say quote unquote blame for it, when he said he's been busy trying to build the roster. And I know for a fact, like, AJ, he's relentless about that. Like, he just claims to be busy all the time because it's like all he thinks about is building the Padres. But the fact is, he's under contract through the end of the year. There hasn't necessarily been any sense of urgency, though I have reported and said to you here, a few times that it's taken longer than they thought. But the bottom line is, like, it's gonna get done is what is being projected by everyone.
I'm wondering, Kevin Acee is with us right now. Do you think it's a combination of, like, all things, like the length of the deal, the dollar amount on the deal, the ownership structure, not the ownership structure, the organizational structure, as in who he reports to as part of the deal? Like, is it just like a wide ranging, like, you'd like to think that, okay, he's under contract through 2026, just give him 2 years, like, it's just as simple as that, just extend the contract for 2 years. But I would imagine, Kevin, it's beyond just like, hey, it's a 2-year extension. There's probably much more in there that would need to be finalized.
Yeah, it's a good point and good questions. And I don't know for sure what is and is not. But look, I think I have a line in my story, I think you and I addressed to some extent, like, last week. It doesn't take a detective to figure out, like, what the main issue is here. They have not made an offer that Preller, that meets Preller's requirements.
Sure.
And, don't read into that, that Preller is asking for the moon, but, like, guy needs a raise, and the guy needs to be paid like someone who would be in high demand. And also, a guy who, they dropped $100 million from the payroll and he built a 93-win team. They came back up on payroll, but a lot of that is, pre-2023 money, and they won 90 games. I mean, what he's done to win the last 2 years and then without increasing payroll, set them up in 2026 to be a playoff contender is like, I'm sorry, like objectively, like without prejudice, almost stating it as fact. The guy's done an incredible job.
Yeah, I think certainly worthy of, and most Padres fans feel the same way, worthy of the extension. And then you have the whole leverage conversation. I could see why you kind of hold out if you're AJ Preller, because you'll have offers on the other side of this if this doesn't go accordingly. And if you're the Padres, like, do you really want to entertain the idea of life after AJ Preller? Not to say that they can't win. It's not like, well, if AJ leaves, they're going to win 70 games every year and they can't do it. It's just, you kind of know what AJ has done. And if it's not AJ Preller, there's no assurance that you'll have the same amount of success under the next, general manager.
Absolutely. I mean, at this point too, and I wish I had space to get into this, and I'll talk about it, another time. But in terms of like, for the Union Tribune, is like, this organization has now been built in his image too. Craig Stammen's coaching staff, though Craig had a big part in the coaching staff, but like they share a vision. Minor leagues, player development, the rest of all of his lieutenants. I mean, we're not talking about just getting rid of AJ Preller here. We're talking about his scouts, his most trusted guys. We're talking about Josh Stein, probably, who deserves way more credit than he gets for the creativity that he just like listens to his mad scientist boss, and they come up with a way to get Miguel Andujar within the budget of the cash they have available, Michael King within the budget of the cash they have available. Like, we're talking about like a remake of the organization, which is what I think you were pointing to.
Yeah, 100%. Kevin Acey's our Padres insider. He's back with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. Is Nick Castellanos a possibility here? The Phillies release him. It got a lot of attention, obviously, within the last 24 hours. Presumably, he's getting a major league minimum deal because the Phillies still owe him a lot of money. Do you see this as at least a ball the Padres will run out in the hours and days ahead?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he's a guy who then is by the nature of, in fact, he got a lot of money from the Phillies, right? And so a major league minimum, something like that, is within the ballpark of where they're going. Now, depending on how the whole starting pitching thing shakes out, they could have a little more than that and want to go with someone that they might think is better than Nick Castellanos in terms of what he has left and all that. I'm not saying that like a Reese Hoskins would be better. That's not my job. But like they do have a tiny bit of flexibility there, but absolutely. Absolutely. I have not heard anything definitive about how he would fit, what their level of interest is. But absolutely, the Padres are into that. I shouldn't say going to be. They're into that.
Speaking of starting pitching, which you mentioned there, and clearly they have a need. We'll see how they address it. When we talk about available dollars, I mean, we just see Chris Bassett, for example, 1 year, $18.5 million. I get it; it's a good number when the Padres haven't really been toiling in that space, other than Michael King this offseason. Like, how is that fifth spot ultimately addressed? Is it internal? Do they spend the 10 or 12 or 14? I mean, do they make a trade? What's some possibilities here for the Padres?
I don't think it's almost certain that there's not anyone left on the market. Framber Valdez was probably the last guy left on the market that if they could have gotten creative enough, that his price came down enough and he was willing to be creative enough, which he didn't have to be. But that's the last that caliber guy is my point, where the Padres are going to go outside of a, pretty much a prescribed comfort zone. All right. So like they weren't going to do that for Bassett. They're not, in my understanding, going to do that for Zach Gallen. We're talking about, Walker Buehler. Herman Marquez didn't sign today, did he?
I don't believe he has.
Yeah. So we're talking about guys that, I mean, who knows where, don't just say that I'm limiting it to those two guys. I hate to mention names and then all of a sudden it's out there like that. It's just that these are some of the guys. Now that doesn't mean they have, yes, I think it was over portrayed their pursuit of Zach Gallen, but yes, they're talking, right? They're monitoring the market, of course. But like some of these prices for where are you at now? Let's say Zach Gallen were at third tier. Let's say we're there. These third tier guys, look at the prices they're getting, man. Like that's not Padres land right now. So it's more like, a couple mil and go out and earn your job, or maybe it's a non-roster invite of a name, but a guy who, the league doesn't believe still has it. But they think, hey, what's the harm bringing him in for this little bit or a minor league deal and see what happens here, what he's got left, what Ruben Niebla and crew can do. And that's probably what we're talking about.
Is there any update? Kevin Ace is with us right now. Just regarding potential bids for this franchise. I know Rob Manfred, I think, was quoted publicly today saying I think the word he uses is robust. There's robust interest in the San Diego Padres. Are we still kind of heading towards a resolution at some point here in 2026 with bids for the franchise and this ownership group changing hands in 2026?
Oh yes, and sooner than later. I mean, it's not going to drag out once these bids happen. I'm trying to kind of nail down like what a timeline might be, but like we talked about for a couple weeks now, people have been talking about this more sooner than later.
What role? I go back to 2023, and I don't know the role that players leaving for the WBC had on their ultimate, success or failure that year. And obviously, it was a disappointment, a significant disappointment, the way the team played. What are they saying about that this time around? I feel like that's been a topic of conversation this offseason. They'll have 8 or 9 players leave once again. What impact did it have in 2023, and how can they potentially curtail it moving forward?
I don't think anyone denies that it had an impact, though there is obviously a reluctance to say that, that's why, right? But they got off to a terrible start, right?
Yeah.
And you had a bunch of new players. I mean, to a certain extent, Juan Soto was new. You had the pitch clock being implemented. You had a manager who, kind of let the players run things. And wait a minute, all our leaders are gone, or not all, but you know what I mean. Like a lot of the best players are gone for a long time. You had Tatis coming back, but then also being gone for the first 20 games. There was a confluence of events that the WBC played a big role in that just set them up for failure. They've now experienced it. They've learned, and when I say they, Manny Machado, who else is still on this? Xander.
Yeah.
And of course the organization. But I'll say this, that like we've talked about this. I'm not trying to, crap on Bob Melvin, but Mike Shildt ran a tight ship. I don't like in terms of detail, in terms of efficiency, in terms of like making sure that sort of thing would be addressed. And I don't think there's much change this year in that. They are intentionally going to try to make sure that there's team building, that they can turn this into a positive, because there's no doubt that it hurts every team to some extent to have their best players. And more than ever, the best players are playing in the WBC.
Yeah, that's really good insight. One more before you go, Kevin. You wrote about Sung Moon Song, who's one of the bigger moves of the offseason, obviously, because it's been a relatively quiet offseason. I know he was to some extent banged up, but it sounds like his health is in a good spot. What's the general plan here for the way he's going to impact this team in 2026? As we start spring training, what's the thought process with his role for the year?
Like best case scenario is he's filling in regularly and serving as a DH because, man, he is hitting right-handers just so well. That's probably best case scenario, right? And you take a look at how long it takes. I mean, the Korean hitters coming over here, and the best of them, there's just a matriculation process. This is a much better league, much faster, better pitching. And then so much else too. Like, I didn't realize till Ha-Seong Kim came, there's one time zone in Korea, right? Like, and all of a sudden you are traveling across like 4 Koreas and you are playing, what is it, 18 more games. And it's just a lot. And you're doing it while having to communicate, trying to learn English, have an interpreter do everything. And you are missing Korean food and your mom and your family. And I mean, it's a lot, man. So I don't know that the expectations should be that great. And I'm not saying that he can't be a big part of the team, but I don't know that the expectations should be that great.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Kevin, appreciate you taking time. Never dull. And spring training's back underway. We'll be doing a lot here in 2026. So appreciate you taking time for us, and we'll catch up again in the coming days.
See you, John. Bye.
Appreciate you. Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, again, back in Peoria for spring training here in 2026. And of course, we'll have you covered here on San Diego Sports 760. We'll react to that on the other side. We're here until 6. The Brian Dutcher Show is coming up at 6 p.m. If you've got a question for the head coach of the Aztecs, we will get to it live on air. You can text us right now, 70470. You can start your question with the word team. Again, 70470. Start it with the word team. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego State basketball with Dave Velasquez coming up in 10 minutes. Then the Brian Dutcher show at 6 p.m. If you've got a question for Dutch, he'll join us live at 6. You can get your question in right now at 70470. Start it with the word team. And you can text us 70470. Start your message with the word team, T-E-A-M. We also remind you that San Diego Sports 760 wants to congratulate our $5,000 winners. And iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. There's still time for you to nominate a public school teacher making a difference, and maybe they'll be one of our next winners of $5,000 to make over their classroom. You can help us say thank you to the educator shaping our future. Nominate your favorite teacher now at iHeartRadio.com/teachers. So just to put the bow on our conversation there with Kevin, what I found to be insightful, and he's consistently gone down this path, and I agree with it, is that we still think, and I'm not speaking for him, he still thinks the Preller deal is coming to fruition. It's going to happen. We know we've said it before. Now I'm kind of paraphrasing here. Kevin has said it, whether it was October, November, December, now we're into February. He still believes the sides are working towards an agreement. And ultimately, it comes down to, what are you offering? What are the dollars and cents of the offer? And is it fair from AJ Preller's perspective? But he does believe they're working towards that, end goal. And I buy that. I do buy that. Now, do I have a little bit of question marks and some reservations about it because it's taken this long? Yeah, how could you not? Like anything in life, when it's open-ended, that things can transpire or play out. But at the end of the day, he's still here. He's still making moves. He was in charge last trade deadline. There is time. Even though it's taken time, there is time. It can happen at any moment, Brent. We may see a tweet from the club next Tuesday, a week from Monday, one night, one morning. I mean, it can happen instantaneously. So I tend to agree with the point, which is, yeah, it's taken a long time, and I know we've said it a lot, but ultimately they are working towards a resolution.
It's going to happen on a Friday.
Yeah.
At about 6:15-ish.
In the evening or in the morning?
Yes. Well, no, but in the evening. Morning would still benefit us.
Yeah, we were talking about
so
it.
it'd be at night.
Yeah, I know we're joking about that. I do. Again, I said earlier, I'm like, well, it's like kind of like 52-48. I think it gets done, or 55-45. And so I do believe that. I believe it's going to get done. I still think there's a part of me that's like, what if it doesn't? But everything that Kevin says makes sense to me, which is, listen, it's taken a long time. That might be slightly unusual, but ultimately Preller wants a fair deal, and the two sides are talking. That makes sense to me. It doesn't scream, it's not like Preller, it doesn't seem as if he has to go. It's not like he's like, well, do I really want to be here, or I can have more success elsewhere? Listen, there's pros and cons of every job. This isn't the best job. It's not the worst. You can win here. That's been proven. Are there better jobs than the Padres historically? Yes. Are there worse jobs? Absolutely. I'm just saying, all things being equal, why wouldn't he really want to finish this out? I buy that. And he has said that. So what's the reason to go? Because you've been here a long time? Because the ownership is going to change? The ownership's priority changed under him. It has. I mean, there's been all kinds of change over the last few years. So I'll take it all on its face, at its word, that, again, it's a little awkward. It's taken a long period of time, but I kind of trust in the fact to some extent that it'll get done. That's where I am with it. We might laugh on that looking back if he's the GM of the Boston Red Sox in 2027, but I don't think that'll be the case. I really don't. And there'll be, like I said, you're going to get a tweet, you're going to get a graphic, you're going to get a post. Yeah, it happens quick. We're talking about an e-doc. We're talking about a signature is what we're talking about. This isn't moving mountains. This isn't a Juan Soto $500 million deal that we talked about 3 years ago. This is extending your general manager, which they've done before. I mean, this would be a formality under Peter, obviously, you'd like to think, with Peter Seidler still in charge. You would believe that Preller would be under contract beyond 2026. And I think ultimately we'll look back on it and be like, man, I don't know if it'll be much ado about nothing, but we'll look back on it and be like, oh, so they did get it done.
The only like scenario or reason that I could see him not wanting to stay if I was him was it would be from the point of view of, if you're a chef and you've had a blank check essentially to cook these meals for the last 10 years, but now they're pretty much, instead of sending you to, some bougie grocery store, instead of going to, Whole Foods to buy your stuff, now we're sending it to Costco or something like that because you don't have as much money to spend. And he wants to make fancy meals. He would want to leave and go someplace else where he has more money in the kitchen, opposed to staying someplace where his budget is extremely limited now. Granted, some of it's his fault because he spent it, but I could still see him leaving maybe for that reason, because he could go to some other team and have a fresh slate of cash and just be able to go nuts again like he has done in the past. Or if he stays here, until some of these other contracts get freed up, he's going to be restricted for a while.
That's an interesting thought process. It is, because like, yeah, you've been buying at the dollar store here recently. Like, do you want to get back into Neiman Marcus or whatever? I mean, it's an interesting way to look at it. All right, we'll switch gears. Dave Velasquez, San Diego State longtime basketball assistant coach, will join us next. Brian Dutcher joins us live at 6 p.m. If you've got a question for Dutch, text us 70470. Start with the word team. This is San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Capital One. What's in your wallet? The Dodgers today and third baseman Max Muncy agreed to a 1-year extension worth $10 million guaranteed. The team also re-signed Kike Hernandez to a 1-year deal worth $4.5 million. In college football news, Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss was granted an extra year of eligibility by a state court judge who issued an injunction that will pave the way for Chambliss to be eligible for the 2026 season. Tonight at 6:00, we have the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show. The Aztecs head coach will talk with John about Saturday's upcoming game against Nevada and more. And following the Brian Dutcher Show, we've got Lakers basketball when the team takes on Dallas. Capital One offers no fees or minimums on checking accounts, and most Capital One cafes are open 7 days a week to assist you with your banking needs. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank. Capital One, NA, member FDIC.
Or whatever we used to do. Did the music run out? Oh, I thought the music ran out on your update. Remember how when we used to run long in the music, we'd play like that? Did that happen on your update?
No, it's still playing.
Okay, I was on the wrong. You know what it was? It was where I was in recording. I was on the wrong, like whatever.
No, I ran out of the music the once. I'll buzz myself if it happens.
Okay, yeah, I got you. Brian Dutcher is going to join us coming up at 6 p.m. live. If you've got a question for Dutch as the Aztecs get ready for Nevada, text us 70470. Start it with the word team. But if you missed Dave Velasquez, long time Brian Dutcher, Steve Fisher assistant. He joined us earlier, and we started the conversation by asking if it's been a good time to kind of work on themselves right now. San Diego State hasn't played since last Saturday. They're in the midst of their quote-unquote bye. What role has that played for the team?
You know, we're really, it was nice to have a couple days to focus on ourselves and especially start going through the most important time of the year where we have a lot of late game situations. So we've been doing a lot of late game situation stuff and kind of clean up some other stuff that didn't have enough time. We're always focused so much on the other team so much. That's been good. We've got to rest our legs as well. And with all that being said, you know, we feel like we're in a good groove coming into this bye week, but I know our players needed it. The coaches needed it. Just kind of a quick deep breath. And then we're back to work today, getting ready for Nevada.
So what are you seeing right now defensively? Because you can look at some of these efficiency numbers and they keep showing improvement from SDSU in general. I mean, you look at KenPom right now, I think San Diego State's defensive efficiency is 15th in the country, which means probably over the last 6 weeks, it's somewhere in the top 10, if not higher than that. What are you seeing? What is changing with this team over the last handful of weeks?
I think that a lot of it is we had a lot of new guys or guys in new roles. And for them to not have to think and just react, I think we're just playing more free. We're way more connected than we were early in the season. And then the last thing is for any San Diego State fan that watched us play from the past, we are starting to look like a San Diego State Aztec defense. I mean, we are always protecting the rim. Our scouting reports have been really well followed by our guys. And to me, it's just, as the season progresses, it's a very standard to me what a Brian Dutcher team is, which just gets better and better and better. And Coach Fisher seems the same way. As the season went on, when guys really started to get comfortable in their roles, understood what the coach were asking for, understood other players' strengths and weaknesses, it was always fun this time of year because you could feel the team, how much better they got. And now they started to even play with more confidence. They have more confidence now. And hey, we need to get these 2 stops. We got to go on a run. We're going to make our offense is going to start with our defense. And it's been fun to coach, and it's been awesome to see the progress our team has made.
Dave Velasquez with us right now. Again, the Aztecs get Nevada on Saturday night at VA House at 7. Our pregame coverage is going to begin at 6 p.m. I guess I would ask it like this. I mean, you couldn't really ask to be in a better spot within the league, right? Like you've got everything in front of you with 7 regular season games to play. I mean, this is where you kind of want it to be if you would have fast forwarded from the start of conference play, right?
Yeah, I mean, you never want to lose any game, but
Sure.
Yeah, realistically, you feel like you're in a good spot going into this final stretch of 7 games. And they're all going to be hard. That's the other thing. You're playing the top half of the league for most of those games. Out of the 6 out of those 7 games, I think are the top half. And so, it's not going to be easy, and it's going to take everybody. And hopefully, we can get Magoon Guath and Elsie Harrington back on the floor to help us. And they both will be huge pieces for us as we finish this year. But at the same time, we've had some guys step up. I mean, Todd Zagorville's been playing awesome for the last month, and Tay Simmons at times, he's playing even a little bit of 5-man for us. We've been in some foul trouble, and how that looks and how that feels out there has been really good for us as a team to see Tay come along as a freshman. And so there's guys that have been stepping up, and it's been a fun team to coach to see their progress, how much better we've gotten since the beginning of the season.
You've touched a little bit on, I think you've told me before, like with Reese Dixon Waters, his offensive game is so impressive that there's times where it's like he takes a shot and it doesn't go in. You're like, how did that not go in? I mean, this guy is such an elite shooter, but now you see the way he's playing, where he's been in double figures all these games in a row, and he's had some massive scoring games. What is allowing him to be playing some of his best basketball of his career right now?
If you're going to ask me, I'll give you an answer that you probably weren't expecting to hear, but he's playing with joy.
Right.
He's comfortable. You could see how the less pressure that he's putting on himself and how much more fun he's having playing the game. And, he's such an elite scorer. And I think the other thing he's done a really good job of is getting to that free throw line. And I think early in the year, we weren't getting fouled as much, and he wasn't getting himself to the line as much. And I think now, he's become such a complete scorer, from being able to get to the foul line, score around the basket. He's obviously one of his best shots to the mid-range. And then obviously he shoot the three. So off the catch or the dribble. So he's, we know how good Reese is, and he'll continue to be that for us. And it was fun even watching him today at practice. He was awesome today at practice. On both ends of the floor. And a lot of it, too, has just kind of been lost in just playing as hard as he could defensively, and then the offense will come. And I think there's just to see that progression from him throughout the season. And it's always hard on older guys. They feel like the end is so near when the season starts, and it's not. And then by this time of the year, they really start to appreciate that it is coming to an end, but at the same time, like, all right, I know this. I've been through these, kind of these battles with other teams before. I know how the pit's going to feel. I know what Nevada, when they come in our place on Saturday, how that's going to feel. Like, they've been through this. And so it's been fun to see Reese. And again, I think joy is the number one reason he's playing a lot better.
Yeah, no, that's really good perspective. Dave Velasquez with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. I'm curious just to get your general thoughts on the league this year. This has been such a good league, right? With all the NCAA tournament teams over the last handful of years. It's still a really good league. I don't know if it's going to get rewarded like it's been rewarded the last few years in terms of sheer number of teams in the tournament, but what are you seeing from the Mountain West this year?
It is a little different. I don't think we can just bear our head in the sand and say it's not. But at the same time, what's not different are the home court advantages. I've been just unbelievable on how some teams play at home. And then also, it's one of those leagues that's like, we're consistent. You know what you're going to get out of Grand Canyon when you turn on the TV. You know what Utah State's going to look like. San Diego State's going to defend. Like, you can start going through everybody. New Mexico to me is one that's, hat tip to Coach Eric Olin. The winning with two freshmen out there, and one of them being a San Diego kid, and then just putting that new roster together and how connected they are has been impressive to watch. And again, we just have massive respect for everybody in this league. And a lot of them are a little bit of different situation in San Diego State. They're constantly having to put together a new roster like year after year after year. You look at UNLV. UNLV doesn't have one single returning player from their team last year because of a new coach situation. New Mexico is, I think, the same way. So you go through all these, and it's just, to me, it's impressive. Like this league is always always had good players, always has really good home court environments, and always has really good coaching. You can just tell. And so it's nothing new, but yeah, like you said, I don't know if we'll get rewarded as much as we have in the past. With all that being said, everybody's hard to beat. It's every game you go out and play. It's tough. It's never easy.
One of the teams that has really changed its fortunes from last year with a ton of change with the roster is Nevada under Steve Alford. Obviously, you saw him not long ago. It feels like forever ago, but it was in January, just a month ago. And that was obviously a very closely played game. What are you seeing from the way Nevada has played here recently? A talented group, good scores. Think about Corey Camper and Comer, Elijah Price. We've seen the league for the last 2 years. What type of challenge and opportunity is Saturday?
Well, it's interesting. They can really score. It's one of those teams, when they're scoring that ball, they get hot and they get streaky and they get on rolls. And they're also one of those teams, they're down 30-10 against Boise State. And they come back and take them to overtime. They just know that at any point they can rattle off, 4 or 5 straight possessions where they could score the ball. And then defensively, they're really good. Elijah Price, the center who actually transferred from Fresno, he's a big time defender. He just protects the rim, and And to me, they're a team, again, when you're that well coached and you have older guys like they have, like, you're going to get better. So Camper, who's almost averaging 20 points now in conference, he didn't look the same way when we played him the last time. Like, he has got better over the last, 4 to 5 weeks. And same thing with all of them. I mean, they're a team that's dangerous. They know their roles. They accepted their roles, and they're playing really well in their roles right now. They're again, there's a reason why they're at the top of the top half of this league. And a lot of that has to do with the way they can score the ball. So it's going to be a challenge for us. And I just feel like both teams have got, so you turn on some of these games, and not only do you forget some, a player or two here that happened in the game, but at the same time, it's like there's so many things that we did that we're hoping not to do again. They're like, we can learn from that, and we have learned from that, and that will be different. But at the same time, we know they'll be different. They won't make the same mistakes. So it's going to be a great game on Saturday.
It really will. This is the beginning of a 2-game homestand here for San Diego State, because Grand Canyon is coming to Viejas on Tuesday. Is this easy or hard when you get to this time of year and not worry about anything other than your upcoming opponent? You know what I mean? Everyone's talking about bracketology and March Madness and Mountain West Tournament and seeding in your own league. Do you find that do the players concern themselves with that outside noise? I mean, everyone's on a phone constantly, but are they able to just lock in like they maybe did 15 years ago?
Oh, I mean, I don't know if they did it 15 years ago either. I mean, no, I don't think you concern yourself with it. I don't think you consume any time with it. But yeah, everybody's a college basketball fan,
right?
And you're obviously keeping an eye on it. And I don't know how much energy you're putting towards it or emotion at all, because it changes. I mean, especially in a league that we're in. I mean, things can change over a week, and so again, it's one of those things. It exists, but you don't put too much time on it. But no, I'm not going to sit here and act like it doesn't exist and like be like Bill Belichick and say, "Oh yeah, on to Cincinnati after every single game." I mean, no, of course it's there, and our guys get excited about it. I mean, it's the whole reason to come to San Diego State. I mean, you come here to win championships, put up banners, and play in March.
You're in a position to potentially do that here in 2026. I'll leave the refreshing of Ken Palm and bracketologists to me. I'll take care of that. Let them play basketball. Dave, great to connect. I will see you on Saturday. Thanks for taking some time for us.
You're the best. Go out.
Great stuff from Dave Velasquez. Again, Brian Dutcher joins us live. The Brian Dutcher Show at 6 p.m. If you've got a question for Dutch, you can text us 70470. Start your message with the word team. Again, 70470. Start it with the word team. We'll get to Brent's back page coming up next on San Diego Sports 760. All right, final time here on 760, although not really, because the Brian Dutcher show is coming up on the other side in 10 minutes. If you've got a question for Dutch, we're going to get to all of your questions at 6 p.m. You can text us 70470. Start your message with the word team. We'll look ahead to Nevada on Saturday. We can look back. Last weekend, the Aztecs a big win against Air Force. They're beginning a 2-game homestand Saturday night. That's Valentine's Day, right? Yeah, the Red Out. I think first 5,000 fans get T-shirts. If tickets are available, they'd be at goaztecs.com. So Saturday night, Viejas Arena for San Diego State and Nevada. All right, we've got a few minutes. Let's get to this.
All right, we got a couple things today. We're going to start with the Rangers are doing a pretty awesome promotion. The Texas Rangers, not the hockey team, New York Rangers. But they are celebrating September 8th, 1990. And
oh, yeah.
You know, of course, just like it was yesterday, I'm sure everyone remembers. I don't have to remind you at all. I'm just joking. I'm going to anyways. On that date, the future Hall of Fame pitcher, Nolan Ryan, created the iconic picture of him pitching with his bloody lip, because that was the game. In the second inning, he failed to cleanly field a one-hopper off the bat of Bo Jackson, and it bounced right into his face, and there's blood all over his jersey and his face. But since it was the 90s and it wasn't now, he just stayed out there and pitched. So instead of just getting like a Nolan Ryan jersey for their giveaway, it's a jersey, but they have like blood smears and stuff on the jersey to recreate what his jersey looked like.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I did see that. Pretty unique.
I think it's awesome. Originally, when I saw the bloody jersey, I thought it was to commemorate him kicking Robin Ventura's ass.
Yes,
but,
I remember.
Maybe next year.
Yeah, exactly.
That will be next year.
Exactly. No, I saw that. That is unique. What else you have?
And Disney is facing record fines for privacy violations. Disney's facing record fines. The California Department of Justice has settled a lawsuit over the company's privacy policies. What happened was every once in a while you'll get a thing that they'll ask, hey, can we sell your information? You can be like, no, don't sell my information. Don't use tracking cookies. That type of a thing. Well, the problem was Disney was putting that out, and people that were saying, no, don't sell my data, they were doing it anyways, I guess. So it's something to keep an eye on, because they are settling. It's a $2.75 million settlement. If you were one of those people, you might get a little bit of money, but you're going to have to wait because it still has to get approved by a judge.
Is there anything better than being a part of something like that? Have you in your life ever just received in the mail, like,
yes,
here's your $17.35 from this settlement? You're like, oh.
Yeah, I think it was
like an ESPN.
I had I think it was something through like a workplace where I had like Experian or something through there. And it was one of those things where they were included in like a data breach or a data hack, and just them being included, I got like a check for like $23 or something like that. Cause I was one of the millions of people that were involved in it. So we had to split it.
Yeah, exactly. Did you have anything else?
One last thing. Yesterday we talked about the passing of James Vanderbeek, who famously played Dawson Leary on Dawson's Creek. On Dawson's Creek, Dawson was an aspiring film director, and his hero was Steven Spielberg on the show. His room was covered with Steven Spielberg posters. He constantly fanboyed about Steven Spielberg on the show. Steven Spielberg donated $25,000 to the GoFundMe for James Vanderbeek's family yesterday.
Wow.
Because they started a GoFundMe for his family. Because, like I said,
he has 6 children, right?
He had a wife. He got 6 young kids.
And I read that the medical expense, like somebody said, his medical expenses. Here's this, famous actor, and he's in medical debt, right?
Yeah.
Because of what he had been dealing with.
Yeah, and he's not DiCaprio or anything to where he didn't make that amount of money and stuff like that.
To the average American,
yes,
and yet you still, I mean, it's kind of insane. It's like, well, what options do you have? I mean, you don't have options, right?
No,
you get the medical care, you go in debt. And I think I'd read as well that GoFundMe for his family as of yesterday was over $1 million total dollars.
Yeah.
So that's good news, obviously, for his family to be supported, because for a 48-year-old man with 6 children, some of them very young, I mean, that's just so sad. And obviously that money's going to go to a good cause, like his family's future, obviously, since he's no longer going to be with us. So it's 25 grand from Steven Spielberg.
Yes.
Good for him. Good for him. All right. So again, Brian Dutcher is going to join us on the other side. We've got 1 full hour coming up of the Brian Dutcher Show on San Diego Sports 760. Crunch time for the Aztecs beginning Saturday night against Nevada at 7 p.m. Valentine's Day hoops at Viejas for the Aztecs and the Nevada Wolfpack. Looking forward to it. We'll, of course, have the call for you Saturday at 7 with our pregame coverage beginning at 6 p.m. And again, if you've got a question for Brian Dutcher tonight, he's about to join us live. So get your questions in right now. 70470. Start it with the word team. I see some questions coming in right now. 70470. Start it with the word team. We'll try to get to as many of these questions as we can. You can text us 70470. Start it with the word team. Brian Dutcher Show on the other side. For Sammy earlier, for Brent right now, I'm John. Brian Dutcher Show next on San Diego Sports 760.